Sometimes you're open for a reason. Brown! Ring it up!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Kick it around the perimeter. Shot clock winding down. Manick fires. Bottom. What a smooth stroke from Brady Manick.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Nice little pin down curl. Ready call. Woo! Williams supplying the block.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Justin Moore working with Samuels. Carlton out on him, gets a step on him. Samuels, as White closes, he scores and one.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this gorgeous day in, well, I think mainly most of the state of Texas and perhaps throughout the country. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right. I'm David Smoak. We appreciate you being a part of the show. And we will hear from John Fanta. He's a Fox broadcaster, covers college basketball, about Villanova's run and also just the Final Four itself. And then also today, tomorrow we have a writer, Terrence Oglesby. He covers the ACC, covers a lot of college basketball, but he'll join us tomorrow. And we'll have many analysts on the Final Four. And my God, there has never been more of a blue blood Final Four.
The elite programs are the elite programs, and even though UNC is an 8th seed, like, let's not fool ourselves into thinking that that's, any kind of, really, really interesting.
I wore this blue shirt.
The Final Four, they did this last week. And not that it was bad, it just wasn't like there wasn't, game-winning shots and craziness and all that kind of going on. And certainly Twitter was, or any social media was not as much traffic as the week before when we had a few more teams involved, which is understandable. But, looking at the all-time Blue Bloods, you got the only teams really missing in this, if you were to do like the all-time most winningest programs, you'd have UCLA and Kentucky. But then North Carolina and Duke, and then Indiana, who also has 5 titles. So, yeah, UCLA and Kentucky the most ever, and they're not in this. But you got the next 2 in North Carolina and Duke, and then Kansas is, right outside the top 5 with 3 titles, and Villanova's got 3 titles as well. So, 5 of the top 7, 8 programs of all time, and certainly 4 of the most relevant right now. It should be awesome.
7 of the last 13 national championships are in this group. And some have a little bit more of a drought than others. The only ones, as you mentioned, UCLA, Kentucky would be a part of that conversation. 61 combined Final Four appearances. We know what Coach Krzyzewski and also Duke has done. I didn't see it happening. No way did I see that happening. And I'm telling you, they look good doing it too. They are not who they were when they were blown out by North Carolina at home, and not even when Virginia Tech beat them in the ACC. North Carolina continues to play at a high level. Yesterday, Baycott was playing among children. That's what he was. He was bigger, stronger, taller, 20-something points, 20-whatever rebounds. It was amazing as North Carolina dominates St. Peter's and Cinderella's slipper fell off.
I saw something I don't think I've ever seen in sports ever. Jim Larinaga, interviewed at halftime with a lead, told Dana Jacobson exactly what was about to happen to his team in the second half if they didn't run faster. He was like, they got to run faster. We can't run with these guys. They're going to come out and run. They're going to come out and run. And I'm sure he went in the locker room against Kansas and said, you guys got to keep running and keep running and keep running because they're going to come at you, and they haven't quite done it yet. And then Bill Self, by his own admission, peeled some paint off the walls, and Kansas came out and ran Miami into the dirt in the second half.
Yeah, so you do what you do. Like you hear coaches, we're going to do what we do. Miami likes to get up and down, right? And their coach told them, no, that's not a good idea today, even though they had the lead, which was somewhat surprising. And what Kansas did to start the second half, you talk about blowing somebody's ears and doors off. That's exactly what they did with an incredible run to start the second half.
Yeah, Kansas looked good. And, to have a 10 seed as your Elite 8 matchup is a great draw. But, hey, Miami was, playing well and playing with a lot of confidence. And, Kansas just took it to them. And, that second half outscored them 47-15. 47-15 in the second half. Mm-hmm. Like, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely bonkers to just dominate a team that one side in the second half of an Elite 8 game. So, yeah, great for KU. It was a bummer to see Texas Tech fall out last week, and then, subsequently Iowa State as well. But, Kansas is definitely representing for the Big 12 Conference, and, that's the basketball school in this league, no matter how many others, pop up and win titles like Baylor did or just compete for them like Tech has. KU's the brand, and here they are once again.
All right, so 5:09, the Final Four Saturday will be Villanova and Kansas, which is not a bad matchup at all when you're talking about pedigree, but there was no way that the primetime game was not going to be North Carolina and Duke. And by the way, anyone who suggests that this was a setup, that you have to make shots. Duke is playing at a tremendous level. I've seen some of that. I know that there's a chirping in the Big 12 when it comes to Kansas, chirping around the country when it comes to Duke or whatever. Duke is playing at a great level in what should be an absolute collision course Saturday evening, North Carolina. It's still amazing to me, and Duke, that all the times those two have been in the Final Four, that the years never matched up ever, never, where they played each other in the Final Four until this year.
Yeah, they had a year where they could have played each other in the championship game, but that did wind up not happening that way. So,
but even that's once. You would think maybe there were 4 or 5 other, maybe at least 2 or 3 other times.
But if you think about where they are, the conference they're in together, the fact that it's a rivalry, both of them probably can't be that good at once all that often. There's going to be especially before the transfer portal.
Wait a minute, what'd you say?
That good where they're both in the same Final Four. Like there's going to be one that's
North Carolina Duke, really?
But there's going to be one that's at least a player better than the other at one time. Okay. Because it's it's just you're talking about basketball here, so it's one player can swing your whole program.
But for 20-something, 30-something, 40-something, Duke really was kind of a cute little story in the late 70s, early 80s. They got beat one time, I think, back. I can't remember who the coach was. He's the one that kind of started it. But, they were in the Final Four a ton when North Carolina was really, really good. And then sometimes they also try to keep you from maybe meeting with the way that they're set set up, but now you can't help it. They're both in the Final Four. All right, so who is Cinderella? Is it Villanova? Their guard is hurt. Is it North Carolina? How can you say that? They're an 8 seed, playing great. Is it Duke because of the story? Or is it Kansas?
Cinderella's dead.
Yeah, Cinderella doesn't exist.
So there is no Cinderella.
Cinderella died yesterday when St. Peter's lost.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, they died in the first 4 minutes of that.
Yeah, but I mean that's it. So when St. Peter's lost, this is not about Cinderella. This is not about some scrappy underdog story. While look, there was a period during the year where pundits were saying, look, if UNC doesn't get their head out of their ass, they're not going to make the tournament. Well, their head's out. They went on a run.
Could you paint a better picture?
I mean, that's out.
Than you possibly
They're
can.
on a run right now.
It's like asking who's Cinderella in a college football playoff that's Ohio State, Oklahoma,
Alabama,
Bama, and whoever you want to throw into there.
All right, Clemson
or something. Yeah, I mean, and which is basically the playoffs that we get. So yeah, I mean, it's not that different in that regard.
I told Smokey yesterday. I said if the college football playoff committee selected the Final Four, this is probably what they would do.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So Armstrong, here's a couple of tweets. One from Kirk Herbstreit. This is from early last week. The one that says at Peacock's MBB is the one I'm looking for first. So Kirk Herbstreit, he put out, man, I love how much Peacock's men's basketball loves to compete, play for another incredibly well-coached, selfless basketball team. Love watching their culture rewarded on the grand stage. Congrats. I can't wait to watch you all in the Sweet 16. Of course, then they won and played in the Elite 8. This is the same guy. And so he's complimenting kind of a run, a fun run, a cute little story. Then here is the same person that Kirk Herbstreit, after the College Football Playoff Committee announced that Cincinnati would be in the 4, which they earned after 7 years of bitching and complaining from a vocal minority that the college football playoff system is rigged. The small guy will never get a chance. Haven't heard much from you last couple of days. Everything okay? What's the next conspiracy? What an elitist piece of crap to say what he said.
Why is he so defensive?
Yeah.
Why is Kirk Herbstreit so defensive about the college football playoff? He does this like every couple of months where he gets something where he can really rail on the people who want an expanded playoff, and then he wants to, I don't know why he is so defensive about this. It's weird to me. And how passive aggressive he is over this as well. Like, where are you at? Like, well, sorry, when I saw this basketball game in that I was enjoying, I didn't think better go tweet Kirk Herbstreit to get his thoughts on this, or to say some grand thing about the college football playoff. No, I just enjoyed basketball and wasn't really thinking about you. But yeah, I don't really have a reaction to what exactly he's saying there. I mean, I see the point that he's trying to make. I just don't know why he's carrying the banner so hard for the anti-playoff expansion. It's very bizarre to me.
Well, he's an elitist when it comes to college football. And here's the thing. Hold on. You have 4 blue bloods, but the fun part of this tournament, and it's going to be an incredible Saturday evening, but wasn't it fun to see a couple of guys pick off some of the dudes? And you could still do that in college football. Mm-hmm. You could still end up with Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Clemson or Oklahoma or whoever. You could still get that in the end. That's what you normally get in the men's basketball tournament anyway. But it still would be fun in that first round that somebody picks off somebody who is an elite college football
Wouldn't
program.
you love to see... I'll just say right now, Cincinnati, before they played Alabama, if Alabama got one of those byes, but Cincinnati plays, say, Oklahoma State and beat them, like it's a power, or USC, or somebody like, you would like to see that. Yeah, maybe it doesn't happen a second time, but it still would be fun. You never know when the matchups are going to fall your way.
Who was it last week when I brought up the field of 68 that the first play-in games, the first 4 should not, and who was the one that said, do you realize how important it is for those 4 teams to be able to say they won a game in the tournament?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing if there was a larger, expanded college football playoff.
If it was up to Kirk Herbstreit, there would be no St. Mary's, St. Peter's, St. whoever. They would not even have a chance. So I don't know what he's bragging about with his defense of the college football playoff. You're basically saying that you want them to have no opportunities to really launch their brands any further than they are by saying, well, what's the point? We're just ending up with the same teams anyway. So if it was up to Kirk, let's just start with the Final Four and the Blue Bloods and let's just play it from there. Because I mean, that's what I'm taking from his comments. I mean, why play the other games? We're just going to end up with the same 4 anyway. So why would we want to see a 16-team playoff where maybe a UCF can knock off an Auburn and it's a big win for them? Oh, wait, they've done that before. Or why would we want to see a Baylor have a crack at, facing off with a Clemson and just seeing how that would go if they have a particularly good team one year? No, we wouldn't want to see that. Let's just put Clemson in there and let them play. Okay.
But in the end, most of the time, like we've even said about the 15 and 16 seeds, 90-something% of the times they lose. But we don't remember those. We remember the runs that have been made by University of Maryland, Baltimore County, St. Peter's, George Mason, among some others.
But here's another thing, though. When you expand a playoff and you have regions and different things like that, okay, if you shuffle the number 1 seeds for this tournament, maybe Baylor goes further, but Baylor, it's about the matchup. So if you do that in football, you don't know what your matchup's going to be. Could hit you in the face. You don't know. No. It happened with Baylor and North Carolina. Bad matchup.
My thing that I have a hard time with a lot of the people like Herb Street or whoever else wants to talk about, anti-expansion of the playoff is just, why do you not like college football as much as you seem to? I mean, if you're a guy who's a voice of college football, you love college football, you want to see college football, you're all about college football, but yet you're advocating for less college football and less opportunities for other programs. I mean, I get we're going to end up with Alabama and Clemson and Notre Dame and Oklahoma or any other variation of that with Ohio State or whoever, but I mean, 2, 3, 4 extra games at the end of a season where a UCF gets a crack at Alabama, and if they get their ass kicked, so what? Like, why are we anti that? Why are we so like? Why do people get angry and defensive over just wanting to play a couple extra games? I don't know why they're so stuck in the mud about that. And
because they don't want to share that revenue with a lot of other people. That's really
what it is.
And they do that anyway. They just don't want to share as much of the revenue. John Fanta, Fox Sports. He covers college basketball. Great broadcaster. We've had him on in the last year, even during Baylor's run, and no matter who's running into the Final Four. John, thank you so much. Have you ever seen a bluer Final Four than this one?
Definitely not, guys. Not in my lifetime. This is 4 huge brands, 4 brands that carry weight beyond just their fan bases. And I think it really is a respect to not just Duke and Carolina and Kansas, but the fact that you speak of Villanova in that light. Because 6-7 years ago, you wouldn't have said it because they had one national championship all the way back in 1985. But they really controlled the better part in the last decade, and that leads you to having these 4 teams, 4 big-time powers. Kansas has owned the Big 12, but with Baylor taking it from them, obviously, last couple of years and winning the national title. But the Jayhawks reminding everybody just how much of a force they are. And then to have these 2 ACC teams is stunning. I would have never been able to guess that the ACC would have 2 Final Four teams and that we would get college basketball's best rivalry on the biggest of stages. It's awesome for college hoops, and I think it's deserved for the fans of the sport. Last year was in Indianapolis in a bubble. The year before that, we didn't even have an NCAA tournament. It feels like a Final Four, a normal one, several years in the making, and we're better to do it than in NOLA.
For Villanova, if you had asked most people before they got into the conference season if this was a Final Four team, I think most people said, well, this is a really good team, but Final Four would be, probably a little bit a lofty goal. What happened once the conference season started that they lit the torch?
Their defense has really evolved. It's not pretty. It's just who they are. Last year, this was a team that was outside of the top 65 in KenPom adjusted defensive efficiency. They were hovering around 66, 67. This year, they've been a top 25 defensive team. They have said, look, we might not have the Final Four makeup in terms of star power, but we'll make up for that in limiting possessions, in being one of the slower tempo teams, and we'll use the stars we do have. And they have the best game manager and the best playmaker left in this tournament, and that is Colin Gillespie. He goes about his business in a soft-spoken way, in a softer manner, but man, does he know how to win. He's a silent assassin, if you will, in the way that he plays. And so Jay Wright has been able to fit a style for his personnel. It's been a little bit different. It's been even slower than Villanova's played before, but it's been attentive to detail, and it has been really successful. And through these last couple months, we've seen Caleb Daniels take a climb. He'll have to be big time with Justin Moore done with the Achilles tear. We've seen Jermaine Samuels play his best basketball of his career here during this NCAA tournament, and we've seen Brandon Slater, a guy that has not been much of a product for Villanova here, a product of their success. This season he has been, and he's defended at a high level. So I think it's been done on the defensive end.
John, you quote tweeted this, and we were actually just talking about this a second ago, but North Carolina and Duke, 257 meetings, 258 NCAA tournament wins, and now the first NCAA tournament game between the two of them. I mean, how incredibly crazy and also special is that, especially given the Coach K storyline and the meeting here recently that really kind of was a fork in the road for both teams, and now they've arrived back opposite each other.
Right, and 13 miles apart, it feels right. It's unbelievable to see that these two teams are going to meet in the Final Four. And you had to feel after that game at Cameron Indoor like the next matchup would be one that carries intensity, but we always thought, hey, it'd be next year. An extra sense of intensity, if you will. But you mean to tell me that Duke and Carolina are going to meet in the NCAA tournament for the first time ever? And that it's going to come during Mike Krzyzewski's final season at Duke? That is something straight out of a 30 for 30. And whenever that Coach K 30 for 30 comes out, you know what the last part of the documentary is going to be about. This is one of the biggest, most highly anticipated games in college basketball history, because you're talking about a rivalry that speaks for itself. In a Legends last year, Carolina has the opportunity to pull a Georgetown Manley Fieldhouse's closed moment at Syracuse that we once saw in this great sport. Could Carolina close Coach K's career, or will Coach K get sweet revenge for one final time? The poetry writes itself. The star power writes itself. These two teams have players that are playing their best basketball at the right time of year. Armando Bacot going for a 20 and 22 performance yesterday. How about Mark Williams the night before and the way that he dominated Arkansas? And then the guard play. Jeremy Roach has become a star. We've seen Caleb Love and R.J. Davis piece together their best run of hoops. Duke and North Carolina are going to deliver a product to remember on Saturday night. There are some games sometimes when you say this can't be underwhelming. I fully believe that this game will live up to its anticipation.
John, what happened to these two? What turned? I mean, Carolina obviously hammered Duke at Cameron, and then got knocked out, in the semis or whatever by Virginia Tech in the ACC. Duke lost to Virginia Tech, although they led the ACC most of the year, but it was never to a point where you knew who they were. What have they do? What's happened here? Is this just two coaches that have kind of in different ways helped them get to where they are right now?
Yeah, I think it is two different roads, guys, but let's look at each. For Duke, I think a lot of it is psychological. A lot of it is mentality and how you handle the amount of pressure that you're under, knowing that this is Coach K's final ride. So having to deal with that carries a whole different dimension. Duke showed us they could be a national title caliber team earlier in the season. I mean, they looked great right from the get-go in the Champions Classic. Paolo Banchero, such a transcendent talent. And then you think about the guard play and the way that it was coming together. I think that this team had to swallow some lumps to now get here. But for me, you could never deny Duke's talent. They're the most talented team of these four that are left here in New Orleans. Where you go differently is North Carolina, to me, is a team that was not defending. They had no defensive identity. This wasn't psychological as much as it was, hey, you got to become more connected as a group. And they've done that here. And one big moment for Carolina is Dawson Garcia, a Marquette transfer. He leads the team. That opens the door for Brady Manick to take on a bigger role. And sometimes, guys, when you take on a bigger role and you know there's nobody behind you, you play even better because you play with no pressure, nothing to lose. And that's what I sense from Brady Manick. And I sense that from Carolina as a whole. I think this North Carolina team said, look, everybody's hating on our coach. They think Hubert Davis was a bad move. Let's play for him. Let's play for each other. And that's what Carolina has done here in putting together a run. They've won 16 of their last 19 games. They were a team that everybody counted out in mid-January, and here they are. So It's a little bit different. I think for Duke, it's adjusting to the pressure level of this Coach K situation. These kids have really grown up, and they have found backcourt playmaking. But for Carolina, to me, it's about defense. They couldn't defend a lick earlier in the season. They got blitzed by a couple teams. This team has found itself on that end of the floor. They have found a toughness.
John, what are your thoughts on Kansas, the lone remaining 1 seed in this tournament? They haven't played their best basketball. They hadn't until the second half yesterday against Miami. What do you think of them as they head to New Orleans?
Well, I think that this is a team that has a terrific wing in Ochai Agbaji, but the biggest question was what kind of guard play? What kind of guard play are they going to be able to get? And the answer to that question has been Remy Martin. I mean, Remy Martin has been superb for this Kansas team in this NCAA tournament. Had it not been for Remy Martin, Kansas doesn't beat Providence on Friday night. Martin made some huge plays to set the tone in that game. And he didn't have his best performance against Miami, but he's given them a different dimension. And Kansas's point guard play, no disrespect to DeJuan Harris, but DeJuan Harris is not an elite point guard. He's not an elite guard. Remy Martin gives them that elite feel in the backcourt, and it's a guards game, gentlemen. Kansas can match up with anybody from 2 to 5. The one position was troubling them. That position has now been more solidified. Agbaji, Christian Braun, Mitch Lightfoot, Jalen Wilson, they're all shot makers who make things happen. Wilson's a key because he didn't shoot the ball well against Miami and is not a great perimeter shooter. So I'm curious to see if Villanova plays off of him. And we'll have Jermaine Samuels take a step back from guarding him from time to time. But at the 5 spot, David McCormick's been better as of late as well. And McCormick did not have a great regular season. So I think it's a combination of they always had the talent, but Martin was out for a longer period of time, and they were missing that extra option offensively, and now they found it.
John, your early predictions for this weekend, or are you still kind of tinkering around with it in your head?
Yeah, I think that guys give Jay Wright a week, and it's very difficult to doubt him, but Kansas should win this game. They have more firepower. They have more depth. They're now defending a lot better than they were. And I think that the Jayhawks, as much as they could be susceptible to losing this game if Agbaji and Martin are both struggling, I don't know how Villanova compensates for the loss of Justin Moore, knowing who's on their bench. Jay Wright doesn't play a lot of guys to begin with. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard for them to win this game with essentially 5 guys. And then I like Duke. I just think that Duke's guard play is a huge difference, and I think Duke defensively has an advantage over Carolina, and more than anything, revenge. Duke does not want to go down back-to-back times to Carolina. Timing is everything, so I've got the Blue Devils.
You know, I was looking at Villanova's schedule, and we saw firsthand that defensive nightmare that they faced against Baylor back when Baylor was rolling, when they scored just 36 points. But my goodness, I don't know this compared to everybody else. Baylor at one point had the most quad 1 wins. I think Kansas probably maybe now leading that. But they've played number 2, 17, 6, 2, 18, 17, 24, 17, 8, 21, 9, 20, and that's just the regular season. And their trip, Kansas, now they just beat Houston, who was hot, Michigan, who was hot, Ohio State. I mean, they have played a schedule. I mean, I think everybody by this time has played a schedule, but my goodness, have they been tested.
Yes, and Jay Wright had that mindset. He said he questioned his scheduling a little bit when the calendar rolled to January because he thought, did I make it too hard? But I'll tell you guys, this is the prime example. Why wouldn't you schedule in college basketball? Mm-hmm. Because by scheduling, Villanova got the benefit of the doubt with the committee. And they got a nicer draw, I think, than a team that doesn't schedule. So Villanova suffered losses to Baylor, to UCLA, to Purdue. In the committee guys, they gave more credit to Villanova for scheduling those teams than for someone who came up with a cupcake win. And I like that. They often say you got to beat people. Well, some of these teams didn't even beat anybody. So, for me, why wouldn't you schedule in college basketball? Jay Wright knew he had a veteran team, and he knew as the calendar turned to December that his team had to get better. But they saw the level that they had to hit to get to this point in their season all the way back in November and December. And it allowed them to be ready for the Big East, which was a tougher league this year than it was last year. And it allowed them to peak at the right time of year. Now, losing more, it's very unfortunate and it's tough. But this Villanova team's battle-tested. They've had to play without Moore before this season. They've had to play without Gillespie. So nothing gets past these guys. They just are so disciplined, and they've learned. They've learned from a nightmare in Waco against Baylor. And they're standing still as a result of it because Jay Wright gets his teams to play better and better as the journey goes on. And you're better off when you play a Baylor because you know what you can't do if you're going to move on in this tournament.
John, thank you. Appreciate your time. It's great to hear from you, get your knowledge and insight. You're right there smack in the middle of it. What a weekend in New Orleans, Villanova, Kansas, and North Carolina, and Duke. We appreciate your time.
Off to find some jambalaya and bourbon, boys.
There you go. There you go. Thank you very much. That's John Fanta, Fox Sports college basketball broadcaster. Love hearing his thoughts on the Final Four coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about the men, but I just wanted to mention that Kansas is the only Big 12 team alive in either tournament, as we saw Texas go down this weekend on women's hoops. So tonight, I guess they get the other half of the bracket situated, but already a couple of teams in Stanford and South Carolina that have booked their trips, and then we'll see tonight if UConn advances against NC State and Michigan and Louisville. But Texas was the hope on the women's side. They're out, so KU kind of carrying that basketball banner for everybody.
When the tournament was decided, Kansas had 12 quadrant one wins. Baylor, Gonzaga, Tennessee each had 10. Wisconsin, Kentucky, Iowa State had 9, and then Villanova's in a clump of about 6 to 8 teams who was 8. They were 8 and 6, and 8 and 6 against quad one teams. You're playing really good people. Gonzaga was 10 and 3, Baylor 10 and 5, Tennessee 10 and 7, and Kansas was a very good. Well, obviously 12 and 5.
And you think about it, they had back-to-back games. Villanova was Baylor, and now I'm blanking on whoever
Creighton.
else. Creighton, who beat the brakes off of them. And so you thought, okay, well, I mean, maybe they're just looking ahead, like maybe they'll do well in the Big East. But when it comes to playing other people, so far they haven't proven that. But man, they shook it off, and that's a testament to the coaching of Jay Wright. I mean, he's just damn good.
Absolutely, and had a chance to those media sessions last year. The Final Four were not like the normal. They didn't play him in the Final Four. The media sessions at the tournament in Indianapolis. That's one of the guys I'd like to have been inside of a normal media session to hear him. I really, really, really like Jay Wright and what he does and how he represents that school and college basketball. From Sebastian Matson, the way that North Carolina is playing now is incredible. As long as Manick isn't kicked out of the game, they probably have the best chance. And then in that game, they're up 25. He goes out. Guess who's the glue of that team? No matter how good Baycott is or Davis is or whatever. I want to talk about the guard at Duke. I know we got to take a break. Who's the young man? Roach. In that game against Tech, and I know it's been a while, my goodness, it's like Remy Martin has grown up right in front of our eyes. We knew, and everyone, and Paul, you've kind of stressed that from now for about over a month, but he still was at times being abused on the defensive end, and he wasn't quite. He now gives them everything you had mentioned for now weeks. But Jeremy Roach, to me, in that game with Texas Tech, holy crap. I mean, he was clutching that game.
He didn't score quite as much against Arkansas, but he still played really well. But, I mean, it's one of those things, if you've got something that hasn't hit its full potential and then all of a sudden it does now, that's why one of the reasons I picked Kansas was because of Remy Martin. The other one was I didn't expect that Ochai Agbaji and Christian Brown would slow down. And the first couple games of the tournament, they really did. Ochai Agbaji was kind of Kyle Cornish, you know him. He and I were texting. He said he's kind of been vapor, and then a little bit in the first half, but second half yesterday, Kansas realized oh crap, are we Kansas?
Yeah,
and then just exploded.
He blew. Loved to have been a fly on the wall for that one. I hate it for Villanova that Justin Moore suffered the Achilles tendon late in the game. In their win. That sucks. Villanova, of course, last year without Gillespie in their run in the tournament hurt them down the stretch when Davion Mitchell just started toying with them in forcing turnovers.
But let me tell you something about effective leadership. If you watch Bill Self and never listen to a press conference, Bill Self, I would say the word is cool. And I don't mean just, not the Fonz cool, which I'm sure he could pull off, but he's He's just this. He's even-keeled. He's cool. He's laid back. Nothing's going to faze him that much. I've seen him after wins and losses in press conferences be very matter-of-fact about why things happen. He saves his highs and lows for when you really need him. So if you're in that Kansas locker room and Bill Self comes in pissed,
he's a pretty big man, too. By the way, congratulations to former Baylor player K'Ron Johnson. He's now the defensive coordinator locally at high school at Midway. He's been around. He's been coaching now for about 7-8 years. He was named defensive coordinator for Shane Anderson in the games that we do on Midway football, and that's great to see him coming back. Also, we're not going to just act like Chris Rock didn't get the slapped out of him by Will Smith. We might get into that a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't like people in Hollywood. The only one I probably do like is Denzel Washington. And there's a few others that I enjoy their movies, like the Bourne Identity movies or John Wick and whatever else. But I'm not a big Hollywood guy at all. Paul's a movie aficionado.
I don't like him either.
You guys went to Batman and all that. I'm not. I hate it. I can't stand the culture there. But at the same time, holy crap. Let's get to that, talk about that, get feedback on the chat as well. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem, a drive-through window so fast you won't even know what just happened because you'll say, I need this and this and this. Boom, boom, boom. It's in your hands and you're off on your way. Even if there's a long line, you should do it. Plus the variety that they have. They're constantly churning the roster of not only the best craft beer selection or the best high-end bourbon selection, but the best selection of anything. Always churning, always trying new stuff. If it's not moving, they move it out. They bring stuff in. If it's popular, if it's hard seltzer, like Happy Dad, they've done that as well. That's what they do with Rivermen Liquor and Wine. They're on the cutting edge. They're always doing something new and fun and awesome. At Rivermen Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, pool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, we try to focus as much as we can. You know, we even off the radar is sports oriented with Craig, and sometimes whether it's sports business or off the main core of what we discuss, which is usually the NFL, the college football, college athletics, and then of course we do other sports that's going on at the time. But I'm not anyone that really pays attention. I could not have told you who was up for an Academy Award, an Oscar, and I love Denzel Washington as a person, as far as I know, and also as an actor. There's been one or two movies I didn't like, but I love the guy. Love him.
Was nominated last night.
He was, right? He was up for Best Actor. I didn't even know that because that's how much that I even pay attention. But then all of a sudden, the Twitter feed, pop, about Will Smith and Chris Rock. Was there any point at all where you thought it might have been a setup?
No, because that's not how Rock works. I mean, that's what his whole thing is, saying something that's going to make people go, and of all the things he said and ever said in the Oscars, the G.I. Jane 2 thing was pretty innocuous. Yes, we understand that Jada Pinkett has alopecia, but Jada's done a number on Will. She's done a number on Will. She's pushed Will off the deep end or dragged him off the deep end with her. She is an odd person, to say the least, and Will is, man, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, that's the word I kept going back to last night. Was not watching and barely even knew it was on, actually. I just happened to catch a commercial right before it started, but I wasn't watching, and then just happened to look at Twitter later in the night, and it was right about the time all that happened, and I just saw, very generic, oh my gosh, what just happened? And hell, in the world today, I'm wondering, what is going on? It could be any number of things when people are freaking out on Twitter and an award show, but yeah, to finally see what had happened moments later when it got posted, and then to see the feed from Australia or wherever it was that had the uncensored version, that was bizarre. I mean, that was truly bizarre behavior. I get that you can get pushed over the edge, but Will Smith seems to be a guy that's normally pretty. He normally seems to have his house in order and everything in order. He's just a guy of order and seems to really have his life together. And, clearly you don't know everything about everybody. You know what I mean? Because clearly he's somebody who's going through some things, because nobody who's just going about life normally suddenly has the itch to jump on a stage in front of millions of people at the biggest award show in your profession and slap Chris Rock. I mean, that's a level of just something flipped in his head in those few moments. And I don't want to pretend to be some psychiatrist. Everybody's being, armchair psychiatrist, but clearly he's going through some things. I mean, that much is obvious. And I hope he gets it together, because that was just a really bad look. And I know there's people saying, well, I would have done this or I would have done that. In particular on Chris Rock, and his reaction. I mean, if you're sitting up there at an award show on a stage and you're the host and you got a million things flying through your mind, the teleprompter, your jokes and all that, and somebody just randomly comes up and it's Will Smith of all people and slaps you, I don't think your first reaction is to defend yourself necessarily. I think you're just pure shock. And I think that's what Chris Rock was in. He was just in pure shock. Like, what just happened? And yeah, that was wild. That was totally wild.
Yeah, and then of course the aftermath when Will Smith started yelling at him again twice. You could see the woman behind him who's like, "What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on here?" So here are a couple of responses, and then we're going to play the video that's the censored part of it. From Lee Buttercup, you just can't slap people who make jokes that offend you or yours. Slippery slope that would lead to rampant violence. Will messed up and ruined what should have been his special night. From Mike, the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing might have been a work.
Oh, he's the one who's always saying everything's rigged,
Sebastian, truth be told, King Richard plays real loose with the truth too, but so much of Hollywood cheapens history, tells a false version that actually happened.
I don't even really like watching historical movies ever since I learned how much of the truth has actually changed in these movies. There's a good website, I forget the name of it, but you can actually go click on any historical movie and it'll show you every single scene that's inaccurate or every single thing that's inaccurate, and some of them are just like so blatantly accurate, like, I didn't think that the Revolutionary War happened that way. It's like all of it was a lie, the entire movie. But
Friday Night Lights is like that when it comes to who they played and where they played and what the storylines were. Rich Boone. Rich, I love this one. I live in Reno. Chris Rock will be here in town on April the 9th. I have to buy a ticket. You better buy it now because that's about $10,000 a pop right now.
Well, he look, if you can go see Chris Rock anytime live, he's one of the most masterful stand-ups that's ever worked. So, yeah, absolutely go.
From Lee Buttercup, I think Will felt like a punk because of his wife being seen with other dudes recently, open relationship. He might have just felt the need to establish himself publicly.
Oh, that's all part of this to me. I mean, like
he's broken.
But yeah, I mean, they did an interview together on, I don't know what it was. She has a podcast herself, and he was there, and they were talking about it, and you could see he's like, I mean, we can do this, but do we have to talk about it to everybody?
Yeah, it was the most awkward interview
sometimes
ever.
In Hollywood, you have those things that spark interest because it creates interest in there, and some of that. Now that when you hear about that, that's a different deal. From Paula. If I had been anyone else, they would have escorted them from the building after assaulting another person.
Well, I mean, certainly nobody, no random person without a big name could have done that. They would have been in jail in 2 seconds. Absolutely. It's a total double standard. The fact that it was Will Smith is the only reason he's not in handcuffs. And, Chris Rock, I think if that was a normal person that had just come up, maybe he doesn't press charges, but I think he probably would have. But, yeah, I mean, that would have been a bad look if he would have turned around and pressed charge. Like, he would have gotten probably more flack for that, even if he would have been in the right for that. But yeah, if it was a normal dude who just got up from his chair and walked up, who's just like a friend of an actor, yeah, that guy would have been in jail. Absolutely would have been in jail.
Well, and Chris Rock will get miles out of this.
No, we'll come back with that.
I just hope Will Smith ends up okay, man. Like, seriously, like, I love Will Smith. I think he's awesome. I think he's a fantastic actor. I've watched him for going on 30 years now in various things, and just incredibly talented, seems to have his head on right, just does so many good things, and that was just bizarre. I mean, it was just like a broken person out there, and, again, I don't want to try to play psychiatrist or psychologist because I don't know what's going on in that man's home, but it's kind of hard not for the public to sit there and, look at some of these videos with his wife that have come out from their red table talk and all that kind of stuff that was coming out a few months ago, and just the general conversation surrounding her, and it's all very strange, and I feel for the guy. Definitely don't condone what he did or think that he was right in any way, no matter what Chris Rock said, especially a harmless joke like that. I mean, I get there's the whole alopecia, I understand all that, but you don't walk up on that stage and slap the guy like that. I mean, that's uncalled for.
How many times
handle it like a man afterwards if you want to do something about it. But yeah, I hated that for Will Smith because I like the guy, and I just think that was a terrible, terrible look, and I just wonder what's going on with him.
It'll be something he'll be remembered for a long, long time. One of the things, how many times has Will Smith been in the audience and jokes have been made about other people that were very personal or whatever, and laughed his ass off, And so, all of a sudden, unfortunately, when you're kind of fragile, if he is.
Or maybe you're just tired of hearing it constantly. I mean, that's the thing is, like, you can sit there and say a joke to somebody and say a joke to somebody and say a joke. I mean, it's not like Chris Rock's just now making jokes about Will Smith. This goes back like 20 years. So, I guess caught him at the wrong time, and it was one joke too many, I guess, is what happened. But Yeah, that was so strange.
Remind me to go back to the 440 text about a personal note about one of our listeners who listens to our show that gave an update about his father and his health. It'd be good to come back with that. But here is the censored version of Chris Rock and joking and doing his stand-up and all that. And he wasn't even one of the hosts. It was Amy Schumer and a couple of other people. So, and I say that because I don't know any of them. But here is Chris Rock, and here's the situation.
Oh, Richard! Oh, wow! Wow! Will Smith.
It gets quiet here for a second. They bleeped out a lot. This is what aired.
Yeah. This was actually on ABC.
Well, I mean, there's no point in no audio.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the most electric part is the audio, and that's Will Smith saying, "Keep my wife's name at your."
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a greatest night in the history of television.
It's kind of that nervous, really. And I thought,
what would you do?
Could you handle it any better than? Could you handle it any better than Chris Rock handled?
No, I think he rolled with it. That's why he's one of the best performers out there.
The only thing going through Chris Rock's mind is, damn, I wish I would have responded right away.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's probably going through his mind, and he's got to be embarrassed and in shock and, any other number of emotions. I mean, who wouldn't be totally caught off guard by that? I mean, anybody would, and your first reaction is not necessarily to defend yourself because you probably aren't thinking Will Smith. Like, when Will Smith walked up there, everybody thought it was a bit. Right? Everybody thought, even when it was over, a lot of people thought it was a bit. Oh, that was fake. That was a fake punch or whatever. So nobody really believed it. So why would Chris Rock believe it? Like, why would he think it's real? Nobody thought it was real. And so then when that actually happens, like, yeah, you're just stunned. You're in shock. And I commend him for how he was able to just keep it professional and move on. But I bet he really does wish that he would have that initial reaction of slapping right back. That's for sure.
From Lee, Ricky Gervais, is that right, Paul?
Gervais.
Says 10 times more brutal jokes at the Golden Globes, and nobody has ever punched him on stage.
That's why that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
That's why that was not a normal reaction, because you're absolutely right. Ricky Gervais goes way harder than Chris Rock did in that joke, or any real jokes, or most jokes for that matter. And nobody, walked up and slapped him. So, yeah, absolutely a great point. That's why I say this is not about Chris Rock and an alopecia joke. This is something that's been building for a while. That's the only thing to me that makes it make any sense.
Chris Rock almost responded, but I bet people in his ear were begging him not to. That could have turned into an outright brawl.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, like 5 seconds after that happened, I guarantee he was thinking, like, God, I wish I would have slapped him back. But you're stunned.
He gained more respect, I think, by not.
From some circles, I think other circles would have definitely, other circles like he's a punk. He got, how would you not slap back? But they've never stood on a stage in front of millions of people, in front of all of Hollywood, trying to make jokes and just have this randomly happen. I don't think anybody would just have that instant reaction that they think they would have, with the comfort of 20 minutes of thinking about it on their computer at home. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's really easy to say what you would have done, but in that scenario, in that setting, that's not just, walking down the street and something happens to you. That's a totally different setting that nobody was expecting something like that.
We will have Tim Brando today at 4 o'clock, Fox Sports. Remember, he said, hey, call me back the week of the Final Four, and we're going to have him today at 4. From Clint Davina, I think. It's a new name, I believe, on the chat room, or at least, Clint, I haven't seen your name often. Thanks for the KU support from the Big 12. Kansas now has 2,355 all-time wins, 2 more than Kentucky. With Houston, Brigham Young, Cincinnati, and UCF coming aboard, the Big 12 will be awesome in basketball. There's no question about it with what they have and what they, of course, are adding to the mix. And I tell you what, the one thing about the weekend in the Elite Eight games, that 3 of the teams couldn't score. Sometimes because of who they were playing. Now, give the teams who shut them down. St. Peter's could not score. North Carolina just toyed with them. And I know it was a great run, but they just could not score. And then obviously the Villanova-Houston game, I'm telling you, and I mean this in a very positive way. If I want to get into a scuffle with somebody, I'm taking Villanova and Houston's basketball team with me. And then, of course, Kansas just annihilated Miami in the second half. And the Duke game with what they did as well. So It was a great run. It was a great run. All 4 teams, unbelievable history, but those 4 games, Arkansas was good, but they just did not have enough to keep up with Duke and all of what they had. It's going to be unbelievable. Armstrong Sims loves North Carolina, hates Coach K and Duke. This is going to be a very emotional week for him. Kind of like leading up to Baylor in North Carolina. He went to Baylor, loves North Carolina, and now this tops anything with what's going on Saturday evening. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Over the weekend, I had a bone-in ribeye, cooked it on the grill. It was fantastic, and I always change it up a little bit. Sometimes I might marinate a steak and kind of play with it a little bit when it comes to marinate. This was simple. Get the grill as hot as I possibly could, salt and pepper. That's it. Just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. I actually had a little bit of olive oil on one side. Scarred it on both sides, slow, then kind of cooked it in the grill that I have. It was fantastic. I have never cooked a steak on the grill anywhere, either where I've cooked it or anyone else has, where it wasn't fantastic in the kind of steak and kind of product and USDA, what you get from Waco Custom Marketplace. Jennifer sent me a text of something that they were cooking steaks as well, she and Daniel. Absolutely gorgeous. And she said they were fantastic. Although I think maybe I cook a steak a little bit differently than Daniel. It is a great place to get what you need with a butcher shop and a bakery. Bakery with fresh baked bread every day and kolaches, along with other sweets and treats as well. And the butcher shop that has beef and has pork and poultry and seafood as well. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Order live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. You can pick it up anytime after Friday at 4.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneeredboys.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, Whirlpool Tanning Bed and Kids Club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
A couple of the chat room. Tim Brando will join us momentarily. Fox Sports. Patrick Dagg. Is this the best Final Four we've had in the history of the tournament based on the success of all 4 teams? I can't think of anything analytically better. I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 maybe. But when the stats that Craig read out, championships, Final Four appearances, wins and all that, recent success as well, I can't think of one better.
Yeah.
I really can't think of one better.
I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm sure somewhere out there somebody like Evan Miyakawa or something, posted some graph showing why this is the strongest or the second or third or fourth strongest Final Four ever. I don't know. I'm sure that information's out there somewhere. But, yeah, just in terms of name brand, no, it doesn't get much better than this. I mean, the only thing you could do is, replace – I guess Villanova with like UCLA or Indiana just to add some more titles, but even then you're splitting hairs. So no, I mean this is an incredible field, and we should be blessed with some terrific college basketball. Unlike a lot of what we saw this weekend that wasn't all that competitive compared to earlier rounds.
Memphis and John Calipari, when they looked as if they were going to win it all and they couldn't shoot free throws, and Mario Chalmers hit the shot heard around the world. That Final Four had Kansas in their 8th championship game, 13th Final Four. It had North Carolina at the time, their 17th Final Four, and UCLA in their 18th Final Four. And Memphis that year, remember, had the great team, and it was their second trip, I guess, in the third Final Four, second title game. That team, of course, vacated everything.
That was pretty,
all number 1 seeds.
Yeah, that was the only year it was all number 1 seeds.
So you had that one. That was also, by the way, the connection to San Antonio, which was one of the regionals this year. That was in San Antonio. Mario Chalmers was named the most valuable player of the tournament. Bill Self winning his first title, and they've had a great run. Kansas has owned the Big 12 with an exception. Last year, of course, with Baylor in the year they had. This year they had the co-championship, but then they won the tournament championship in Kansas City, and here they are in the Final Four.
Yeah, 2015, you had Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, and then Wisconsin. So that's not quite up to par with what we've got right here. And I'm going to have to keep going back. I mean, yeah, Villanova, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina is about as good as it's been in a while, because you might have fields where there was 3 of the 4 were blue blood-ish or, basketball blue blood types. But it's, yeah, that 2008 Kansas, Memphis, UCLA, North Carolina was pretty salty. 2009 North Carolina, Michigan State, UConn, and Villanova. That's a pretty good one.
Yep.
And we could keep going and going and going here, but no, this is pretty dadgum terrific in terms of big name basketball programs and basketball programs. Not football schools with a pretty good basketball. These are basketball schools, and it's very cool to see them all converged in this Final Four pool, and we'll see what emerges from it. But it should be 3 awesome games. That's what I'm expecting.
One of the things about Villanova that people discuss is what they've done recently. Of course, Baylor last year beat them in what was the Sweet 16 at Butler. I think it was Sweet 16 at Butler Fieldhouse. Sweet 16 or Elite 8 game. Arkansas was Elite 8, wasn't it, last year? So Villanova was the Sweet 16 at Butler Fieldhouse. Villanova, You can go all the way back. This is not their first rodeo. It's recently they have been dominant. Raleigh Massimino and Villanova stunned the world, beating what was then the great teams at Georgetown. And in 1985, when they slowed it down, methodically winning the game, that was when you had NC State in 83 beat Phi Slama Jama, and then you had Villanova beat Georgetown in 85. Two out of 3 years were shockers in the NCAA tournament. We're now joined by Tim Brando. He's got all the history of a lot of these as well. Fox Sports joins us a lot. We appreciate his time. Tim, is this, and we just mentioned 2008 Final Four. We've mentioned a couple of other years, but is this the bluest of the blue bloods you've ever seen?
It's up there, but if you don't mind, would you allow me just a second to point something out to all of our college football and basketball fans?
Yes.
For just a second. All right. Now, would you guys agree that if you love college sports, that the last 2.5 and at the end of this weekend, next Monday, a week from today, would you say that college basketball pretty much owned the calendar of sports in your life for that 3-week period?
Freaking
Okay. All right. Juxtapose that with the national championship and the college football playoff. Do you think they owned that 3-week period?
No.
They didn't even own like a 3-day period, really, Tim.
Okay. Well, I rest my case on a 12-team format for the college football playoff because, those teams that are not going to be participating in the biggest of the games add to the drama and to the joy, the pure joy of competition. That St. Peter's and Miami were two lower seeds that made it compelling, and even some other teams that were knocked out. Arkansas coming from a 4 seed, getting to the Elite Eight again. These teams all contribute. The inclusion of these teams make the event the event. Now, the championships will still go in all likelihood to teams that have had multiple national championships. And 3 of the 4 coaches are already in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And the other coach in his first year has played for national titles and is a part of the North Carolina program, Hubert Davis. So I rest my case that if college football's leaders, who are also very much a part of this tournament as commissioners of the very leagues that we're discussing here, if they don't understand that, then what the hell planet are they on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What the hell planet are they on to not understand how captivating this tournament has been? And even though the finals, the semifinals and finals will be on CBS, the ratings are going to be through the roof with these teams because the alumni bases are incredible. Now, it would be a larger rating if they were on CBS rather than TBS because of the cable versus over-the-air network situation. But this is TBS's year contractually to have the semifinals and championship game. But it's just incredible. 40 years ago, as a Cub reporter at WGSO Radio in New Orleans, I was 26 years old, and it was my second Final Four. I'd been to the one in Philly in 1981, covering LSU. And the following year, doing a nightly sports talk show on Canal Street, I was on hand and got my credential that way for that Final Four. And think about it. Georgetown had freshman Patrick Ewing. Houston had Akeem the Dream Olajuwon to go along with Clyde Drexler, and Phi Slama Jama was just getting rolling. Then you had Louisville with the McRae brothers and Milt Wagner and so many other great players. Charles Smith, just a fantastic team that had won a national title 2 years earlier with the Doctors of Dunk, Darrell Griffith. And also you had North Carolina with Perkins and Worthy, who were, by the way, bigger names than Michael Jordan as a freshman. Okay, with Black and Matt Doherty, the rest of the starting 5. Think about how big that was at that time. This will be bigger than that. Okay, it will be bigger than that. And it's 40 years later, and the event has taken on, that was the first real big success story of a dome stadium with the Final Four. Houston had it, but it wasn't quite as big of a deal in the 70s. This was much larger, and at this point, the NCAA knew that people just wanted to be at the event. They didn't care how good or bad their seat was. They just wanted to be there. So it will be a fantastic Final Four, and it's been a tremendous tournament. I mean, just the double-digit seeds winning early, as I suggested they would. They all did. And the ones that lost were very competitive. You know, we didn't have very many blowouts until things settled down this weekend and in the regional finals.
Tim, just to go back to your earlier point about football, we as an American television public, we like basketball for a little while each year. We like it a lot, but we love football. We're married to football. Like, that's something that kind of boggles my mind. If something that we love, somehow we've talked to ourselves that we want less of it.
Yeah. We allow the elitists to tell us, well, they're not going to win anyway, so why have them in? You know, they're not going to win it all, so why have them in? I never really thought St. Peter's would win it all, but was it fun having them in? Okay, did Miami's run with Jim Larrañaga, were they worthy as a 10th seed? You're damn right they were. I mean, it was those are the stories and the captivating aspects of the tournament. And it's almost as if college football just doesn't want to admit that the other sport had a better idea. You know, and these are the same people that are running both sports, but they just don't want to admit that the other sport had a better idea.
Yeah, I'm awfully confused by massive college football media member and fan Kirk Herbstreit advocating against it. I don't understand why he's rooting against the sport that he covers.
Kirk wants to do the NFL. We now know that.
Yeah,
sure, right.
Yeah. Tim,
if we didn't know it before, we know it now. He's got some Jeff Bezos money to work with because he's doing the NFL.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Tim, read at the stat earlier on just the number of tournaments that Duke and North Carolina have appeared in, and obviously a couple weeks ago, and the big matchup, and North Carolina gets the win there. I mean, how cool is it to have, the first ever tournament matchup between these two? It's a Final Four, Coach K's last ride. North Carolina just beat them a couple. I mean, you couldn't have scripted this any better, even if you were Hollywood.
Yeah, it's above and beyond historic. I mean, people, I noticed a few people in the media were like, gee, I can't believe Duke and Carolina never met in the tournament before. And I'm like, okay, we need to do a history lesson again. In the John Wooden era, there were only 32 teams, and you had to win your league to get a bid if you were in the ACC. And if you didn't win the league, see Maryland for details in 1974 when NC State beat them in arguably one of the greatest games ever played, albeit not in an NCAA tournament, when Maryland and North Carolina State went at it. And Lefty, never made it to a Final Four, Lefty Driesell. But, we only had 32 teams. So, you weren't going to get a chance to play a team that was in your conference in the NCAAs. Now, they moved it up to 48 in the 70s, and the chance was enhanced a little bit, but not enough to make a difference. And then when they went to 64, which was in 1985, you do recall that year, the NCAA just could not keep the Big East from having a party in Lexington when Georgetown, Villanova, and St. John's all made it to the Final Four, with the one party crasher being Memphis State. That was an incredible year for that league, and it was also the first year of the tournament going to 64. And frankly, that's when this thing took on an all-new life of its own. In 91, it almost happened. It was the year after Vegas had beaten Duke by 30 in Denver, and North Carolina had won its way into the Final Four in Indianapolis. They played Kansas. It was Roy against Dean. Roy got the win. You might recall Dean left the game before it ended after picking up a technical foul. And then it was Vegas and Duke, and Duke spoiled Vegas's coronation, and Kansas spoiled North Carolina's opportunity to play Duke in the championship. So it's really only been close to happening one time, and that was in 91. So especially given the fact that North Carolina ended Mike's reign at Cameron with a blowout victory late and spoiled his gala that was planned at Cameron Indoor Stadium afterwards. To have this matchup again only in the national championship semifinals, my goodness. The storylines are just off the charts. I mean, if Hubert Davis happens to pull off winning over Duke in K's last game in Cameron and then knocks him out of the profession with a victory in the semifinals, they might erect a statue of Hubert outside the Dean Dome. I mean, literally, that's how much it would mean to those fans. And then to have the undercard being a game with, a couple of Hall of Famers. Jay Wright and Bill Self are two Hall of Fame coaches themselves. That's just an amazing, amazing Final Four.
Yeah, that to me, if you look at it, who else could UCLA's name, Kentucky's name, but they were out so quickly. Indiana, which they're kind of like Nebraska in football. It's been a long time for them, and not the same as well. Tim, when you look at what Duke has done and North Carolina, what they have done, and the coaching to get him to this point, Hubert Davis, who's young in this, and then obviously Coach K. Villanova got blasted at Baylor, scored 36 points back when Baylor was rolling along with Scott Drew's team. The kind of resiliency these teams, Kansas with Remy Martin firing off now and playing like everyone thought he could play. There's some resiliency with some of these teams as well, if not all of them.
Yeah, I talk a lot about how teams evolve in college football, and they do. A lot of fans don't gravitate to it because they're not always paying attention. But teams do evolve. They get better as the season goes on. It's really, in basketball, it's more a case of not just evolving, but surviving, because the sport lasts so much longer. It's a 2-semester sport. Players are lost sometimes through attrition, or they're lost to injury, or maybe they got sick at the wrong time in the schedule. And then they have to pick up the pieces and redefine themselves and develop chemistry. You can make a great case that North Carolina's season turned, really, not until they beat Duke at Duke, that they finally then knew they had the chops to do it. They were blown out so badly in the first meeting in early February. I remember sitting in the Capitol Grill in Indianapolis. I'd just done a game at Purdue and had driven over to Indy, stayed overnight there, and I was watching the game with a couple of crew members of mine, and we were like in disbelief because, as you know, I did the Duke North Carolina game for Raycom 20 different times until 2019 when Raycom Sports went away. And I got no feeling that there was a rivalry game being played at Chapel Hill that day. I mean, the doors were blown off them 10 minutes into the game, and they never recovered. They offered no resistance to Duke, none. And after that embarrassment, they found a way to get themselves back up and going again. And then they're on display at a time when maybe most people were thinking, well, this is K's big swan song. It'll be his coronation. And then they pulled that off. They really took it to Duke and dismantled the Blue Devils that day. And you thought, wow, this is a North Carolina team that we had not seen all year. I mean, they were on the bubble up until that time. I mean, there was legitimate talk in mid-February, 2 weeks left in the regular season, that North Carolina only had one quad one win. One. Not three, not four, not two, one. Okay? So they didn't solidify themselves or feel good about themselves until they got that win. And then they went on this ride. And obviously to survive the 25-point comeback from your Baylor Bears, and I mean, Hubert could have been he could be the greatest of all time in his first year, or he could have been the biggest joke artist in his first year with a 25-point deficit loss to Baylor. I mean, they wouldn't have forgotten that in the Carolinas. Trust me, they wouldn't have. But for them to survive that and his team to respond in the aftermath the way they did, they played their best basketball really since the Duke game and after the scare. I mean, and we could go on and on about, how the F2 was a big factor, and it was. But still, that was a blown lead. And a lot of that was because of Baylor, but a lot of it was because North Carolina was playing afraid. And you could tell they were playing afraid in the second half of that game. So the emotions and the reinventing of teams' chemistry in basketball is such a big deal. It's highly underrated, and I think in large measure because not enough people are paying attention for all 5 months of the college basketball season.
Tim, what do you think about the Jay Wright, Bill Self matchup on the court? Now, Jay Wright's going to be down one of his best players, but that never really seems to slow him down much other times. He's got a week. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, all it's going to do is this is a basketball coach's chess match here because Kansas wants to get up and down the floor and do what they do. Now, Miami was the right team for them to play. Miami was the right team for Kansas to play because under normal circumstances, that's what the Canes would have liked to have done. And they did a pretty good job of it in the first half. Slow the game down, force Kansas to defend much of the clock. The problem that Miami had was they didn't have enough guys to make shots. Villanova's got plenty of guys to make shots. Now they need to have a great shooting day, but they have the guys to do it. Samuels, the guy that will be replacing Jermaine Samuels, who was the most outstanding player in that region, is a great wing player, small forward, and two guard body that can post up and do things inside too. But Caleb Daniels, who's from New Orleans, went to high school in New Orleans, and played at Tulane through the 2019 season. He transferred to Villanova in 20. He now gets to come home and be a starter in the Superdome, not far from where he grew up and played high school ball. They only played 7. Now they're going to play 6. Now, I think Chris Archidiacono, Ryan's brother, can maybe play 5 to 10 minutes, give him some fouls, maybe put him in before a 12-minute or 8-minute TV timeout and give Colin Gillespie a chance to get an extra rest. But what this will do to Villanova is just force Gillespie to be on the ball a lot more. When Justin Moore is playing, he can play both point guard and the 2. And what that has done is put some pressure off of Colin and allow him to run through screens and maybe get open jump shots. And Justin Moore can handle the point. Now, Colin is going to have to dominate the ball a lot more as the point guard. And but Villanova will slow the pace of this game down, and they're a team that wants to limit the number of possessions that the other team has of the basketball. And if they can do that and force Kansas into playing nothing more than half court, don't let Abaji get off, then they'll be good. And they have the guy to do that. Dixon's a really good low post player. He's got some girth about him. I mean, it's a 50-50 proposition, even with Villanova down to 6 guys. I do think Kansas is the better team, and if they played 7 times, I would pick Kansas to win the best of 7. But on a one-game scenario and plenty of time to prepare, Jay is an artist, absolute artist. So that thing can go either way, and so can Duke, North Carolina.
Tim, what event have you not been a part of as a broadcast that you would want to do?
Oh, God. Well, I never called, obviously, a Final Four. I did the regional finals.
Right.
I never called a Final Four. But I've done significant games in college football, and I've done significant games in Major League Baseball when the Braves were World Series winner, and in the NBA playoffs. So, to be perfectly honest with you, unless it's some form of racing, unless it's horse racing or auto racing, I've had a part in every sport. I got to work the U.S. Open in tennis with Tony Traver when I was at CBS. I got to work the Masters digitally when I was at CBS. I did the U.S. Open when we had it at Fox digitally. So I've been a part of just about every major sporting event you can be around. I will say that if one day the opportunity presents itself, and I don't know that it will, but it could. If the opportunity presents itself through expansion of the college football playoff and whoever I'm with at the time, I'm with Fox now, but whoever I'm with at the time, if I could be a part of a championship tournament or format with college football, that would be a big deal. I've done the Fiesta Bowl. I've done, big bowl games, but I've never done part of something as special as a college football playoff scenario with expansion. I wouldn't want to be a part of it now, obviously, but I think if we had something that was similar to the NCAA tournament, man, that would be a fun ride to take. Even if you weren't doing the finals, but you were doing a game leading to that moment, that would be a lot of fun. But I'd say other than the Derby and maybe Daytona or the Indy 500, to answer your question, those are the only sports that I've not really been a part of in any way, shape, fashion, or form.
Well, you're right. You're in Shreveport. You're next to Louisiana Downs. You can start there and work your way.
Yeah.
Maybe some dog racing in Opelika, Alabama, right?
Man, I tell you what, Louisiana Downs, when I worked in East Texas, back in the day, they used to have the best. They had the best media day ever.
Yeah.
My goodness.
The food was awesome.
Oh, Lord, it was unbelievable.
And the Super Derby was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we got every major winner in the Triple Crown a couple of years, I think, to Louisiana Downs for the Super Derby.
We love the way you started this segment. We had talked a little bit about how much fun the tournament was and the interest it caught of the entire country because of not just St. Peter's, but a few others as well. And so much I wish college football could find a way, but not sure they can ever get past their stubbornness, but we'll see.
Well, I understand why they haven't. They're going to have to negotiate some new television contracts for each of the conferences, and once they get that done, hopefully they'll do the right thing. It's right there in front of them. They can't. I mean, these are well-intentioned guys that I know love the game. At some point, once they take care of their business, get their houses in order, hopefully we can expand this thing.
I know you have to do another hit at 4:30. Tim, someone mentioned last week, and it might have been you the last time, how important, if we had the expanded playoffs, whoever it might be, to win one of those games, what it's like for those first four in to win. It carries them forever.
It would be like winning a national championship. Let me tell you, for St. Peter's to get to the Elite Eight, just as it was for Valparaiso in '98 when Al McGuire and I were working, and we had them in the Sweet 16. For Valpo to be on that stage as a 13 seed back then was incredible. I remember Al McGuire saying, I asked him the question, what would it mean if a 13 seed could get to the Elite Eight? And Al looked at me and said, Timmy, it would be like a Norman Rockwell painting. It would be perfect. And I thought to myself, who the hell else would think of this other than Al McGuire? But think of it, even though St. Peter's got blown out, all right, and never had a chance from the jump against North Carolina, for that program, for the alumni of that school, and you watch their enrollment's going to jump up. Shaheen may be leaving, but they'll get a better coach than maybe they otherwise would have because of this run they had. St. Peter's, it's like winning a national championship for them. Okay? I mean, it really is. It will be in their brochure as big as the Baylor brochure when they won it all a year ago. Mm-hmm. Think about Boise State when they beat Oklahoma. Check out how their enrollment changed, in the BCS era. Okay? It magnifies these institutions that are smaller, that are trying to build themselves. Just the mere opportunity of being included gives them a chance to go and grab the gusto. That's why America loves college athletics. And the people that are running college athletics need to know that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Tim Brando with us, Fox Sports with us, and has been on our show many times, and we appreciate it every single time he is. 4:26 is the time. We'll come back and get back to the chat room. I want to come back. I want to say Mike on the text line, he had mentioned something about his father had been struggling. Great to know, Mike, that your father is in a lot better shape. Stephen Snook, who's our friend and viewer from Ohio, who drove across country one night to go get to his father because he was in the emergency room. Everything there seems to have settled down. We are a family. We want to hear and also be a support system for you as much as you are for us. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you might have been at some point in your life. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Could be sleep issues that you just don't sleep the same. Could be your sex drive, and it also could be your energy is just not what it used to be. Maybe you have one of those 3, all of them. I don't know, but one way to find out if your testosterone level is too low. Contact Petty Clinic at PettyClinicLowT.com online. Top left-hand corner, email and phone number. Tell them I sent you. And Dr. Petty and his staff will set you up with an appointment to get your lab results, to get your blood work, He'll look at the results, check your testosterone, and if your levels are too low, he can put you in a program to help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, used to be, and need to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
At Allen Samuels, come see the Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 with 2.9% for 72 months, plus $1,500 in bonus cash. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop this incredible vehicle that gives you performance, style, perfect for your family, and reliability your family deserves today from Allen Samuels in Waco. Come shop our huge inventory at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrapped fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Holtmeyer batted and intercepted. And it's Wolcott bringing it back. Could he? Wire to wire, Sikkim Bears. How about it?
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
I don't know who approved this, but Brian Etheridge, one of the partners, he is one of those who hired all of us in this room, along with Ashley and Colt, but he's apparently coming to the studio tomorrow. Who approved that? Who approved that?
Of Brian?
He did.
Okay.
He has the...
yes, his name's on the lease. I think he can come.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he can just do that pretty much whenever he wants to. I got a question for you. By the way, I did see a lot of the people in the chat room talking about the transfers. I just saw, TCU just had a guy going to the transfer portal, and a lot of that's going on right now. So that's definitely something we'll keep an eye on. And on that topic of basketball transfer portal news, you weren't here on Friday when LJ Cryer put out his statement on returning to he never really say he's returning to Baylor, but he was insinuated, and then Scott Drew followed it up and insinuated that LJ's coming back. But LJ in his statement did say, he announced that he is going to have surgery on both of his feet, and we'll have a rehabilitation process and all that, but he's trying to get healthy for next year. So since you weren't here, and that's obviously a pretty major storyline for Baylor basketball heading into the next season, I was curious your thoughts on that.
Oh, it's good news because there has been, and I think pretty legitimate, there's 2, 3, 5, 10 people within the message boards, and really for any school, whatever sport it might be, there are some that are tied in very, very well. And I've been in touch with a couple of them who I know have a pretty good direct link to what is going on. They're huge men's basketball fans. But there was smoke that LJ was seriously looking at possibly going somewhere else. The good news is get healthy. Wherever he's going to play again, and if it's Baylor, that's good news. But I don't think, and Scott Drew retweeting that, Alvin Brooks retweeting that, John Jacobs and whoever else did, is obviously a big deal. But I still think there's still a little tug of war about who's coming back and what positions. They could end up, when you look at what they're going to have with Keontae George and what they have coming back with Flagler, and again, that's something he has to still make up his mind. And obviously LJ Cryer, what Bonner did, how much he improved, and his shot will only get better, which is one of the reasons they brought him in.
Langston Love should be
Langston
healthy.
Love is going to be healthy for the entire year. And he could have been monstrous for them. And then there's the James Akinjo piece. And it's kind of like we've had people who have said that he can frustrate you and also be your best player. Kind of like what at times you heard with Matthew Meyer in a different way. But I wonder if there's still a little bit of a tug of war about how many basketballs do you have. Nobody on staff has told me this. But there does need to be, and I think there's no question, as good as he was, as tough as he was, as sometimes he warrior-like in sports terms, and dominant, that there was a lot of lack of ball movement that we saw the year before, and they had 3 guys who are now in the NBA and somebody who's playing in the NFL.
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest difference is, James Akinjo doesn't kind of play that style. Like and they needed him to this year. They needed him to force the issue quite a bit, as where, Baylor last year was, they moved the ball. They had that extra pass a little bit more than Akinjo. Akinjo, drives the paint a lot more before. He's trying to run it and go faster. So it's a different style of basketball. I think they can make it all work. Clearly it was working when they were 15-0 this year and everybody was healthy and playing. So they can make it work, and it will work. I think the biggest thing that Baylor's got to answer is they're going to lose, Sohan and Brown more than likely to the NBA draft. If that doesn't happen, I'll be completely shocked if one or both of those guys came back at all. So they're going to need to address some size, because it looks like they've got guard pretty well covered, and because you don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Chamwachachua recovering from his injury.
I can't imagine he plays next year at all. If he does, it's a bonus, but I cannot imagine.
I can't imagine he would play early at all. So that's going to have to, if you're being at the most optimistic of a year out, that would be early February when he came back because of that injury. So that puts a lot of pressure on Flo Thamba. Flo Thamba could still leave as well. He could leave. So they've got to focus on size. I think they'll work the guard stuff out. And for LJ Cryer, you're the leading scorer when you left. Why not come back and be the leading scorer again?
What if you are on staff and you have to pick between James Akinjo and LJ Cryer or something like that? LJ didn't play much, and when he did, he was really, really good. Akinjo is an All-American. He's the guy who's a point guard. Do you have a true point guard? And that's kind of one of the things that go ahead. I don't know if you guys were going to respond to that. There is some
give and take. There is a little push and pull. There is a little tug of war.
I was just going to say, I don't care how it gets worked out. I just find some guys that could score some points, because that was as much part of your problem as anything. You can say that the defense wasn't the level of the national championship team. Well, nothing was the level of the national championship team. But, if Akinjo's shots weren't dropping and once Cryer was out of the lineup, it's kind of feast or famine sometimes on who's actually going to put the ball in the bucket. I don't care how it gets done. That would be my philosophy. I don't care if it's Akinjo driving. I don't care if it's dudes shooting threes. I don't care what it is. Just find a way to score some points. And, you should have, enough guys in your arsenal to be able to come up with a way to where if one guy's not on one night, there should be more than, one or two other options that you could lean on to try and get you some buckets. But yeah, I think that they've got a good problem and that there's a lot of talent on paper. And, it's a little bit more complicated than just throw them out on the court and let them play. But I would rather deal with this problem where it's like, okay, how can we get the ball to this many guys versus we've really truly only got one guy. How else can we score? I mean, thankfully that's not their problem, but it kind of felt that way at times once Cryer went out. So, I don't know how all that works itself out, but, the more the merrier, in my opinion, because that health piece was a big bump in the road for them this year.
Normally you have a rotation when you get to the tournament. Like we're talking about, Villanova's going to have 6 now because of the injury to Moore. But mainly, most of the time, yes, St. Peter's would bring 5 new bodies in, and that's great when you can. And sometimes that was part of their strength, and that's how they had to do it. But usually you kind of cap it at 7 or 8 when it comes to tournament rotation.
Yeah, you do.
Baylor, though, last year they had off the bench Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua because Flo started, and then you'd bring sometimes Flagler came in off the bench last year. Who am I missing? Anyone else? This year they had Bonner.
Myers.
Matthew Myers. That's exactly right. So they had the perfect rotation and the perfect type of players, and they were almost a flawless team. This year's team played a lot where they had to bring in people that were Dale Bonner, what he did this year, and yes, his shot was not as good as you thought. He missed 17, 18 straight threes at one point. But he really grew up. You were going to have Langston Love. You didn't. And they fought against that throughout the year. They're not the only team. But, yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have 8 to 10 guys, even though somebody gets disappointed, enters the transfer portal? Okay, so what? You've got 8 or 9 others.
Well, Scott Drew is already in the black and not in the red when it comes to the transfer portal. So, numbers even out eventually, so maybe it will. But I do think this about Baylor this year. The lasting memory of me will be Adam Flagler just spent. And that was not because of that game in particular. That was because of the weeks before, the extra 4 or 5 minutes you're playing banged up and doing this because the team's out of options and you had to dig deep. Everybody only has so much mileage in their car every year. And Baylor against North Carolina kind of hit their peak mileage right there late. And so if they can throw 8 guys in the rotation and not if they can do the plan, which is have kind of 9 guys through the season, and then you get in the tournament and the 9th guy plays 2 minutes and the other 8 are the rotation, then that's probably the ideal thing because that's what they did last year.
Yeah, I don't even care how many of the guys they have. Just have some more than one scoring option, or more than 2 scoring options. It's like, oh, Flagler's hurt. We have no one to score points basically, other than James Akinjo trying to. That was frustrating. But a couple of portal notes. Francisco Farabello, guard from TCU's entered the transfer portal, averaged less than 5 points per game last year. And then Sean McNeil from West Virginia entering the transfer portal was pretty interesting and a little more eyebrow raising certainly than Farabello. But Sean McNeil from West Virginia also now in the transfer portal. And another note that you missed out on Friday was the Terrence Shannon news. Entering the transfer portal right after they lost at Duke. And as I scoured around on social media and just looking at Tech fans and kind of their responses to it, I don't follow that program on a day-to-day basis as closely as obviously Red Raider fans would. So it was a little bit I don't know if it was, I guess it was somewhat surprising and just a little bit more illuminating that so many already felt like he was, kind of inching that direction. Just me casually following along, I just watching them win games and hey, Terrence Shannon's a good player and, whatever. But I guess they had a feeling up there for a little while that this would be a possibility. I don't know if they were predicting that, hours after, losing their final game, he'd just jump right in like it was something he had been thinking about. I don't know if it was that clear, but not as much of a shock maybe as it was to me when I just first saw that news. But very interested to see where he goes, and I know that they the Tech fans that I saw wish him well, but also feel like they could be better without him because maybe it wasn't such a great fit throughout the year, especially there for him towards the end and kind of his body language and all that.
And Andre Curbelo, Illinois, entered the transfer portal, a very talented player, but one of the things you see, and I think it's a talk show, we can bring this up, you see someone, my God, he's talented, another one goes, yeah, but I don't know if you want him. Again, a lot of it's a fit, a cultural fit. And sometimes guys can change when they go to where they go.
Here's what you need to do. You need to trust your coaches. If you have a good coach, usually they pick out the guys that are cultural fit. And I actually think just knowing, because we know this coaching staff here at Baylor better, what Scott Drew's been able to do is lately the guys they get fit the culture, and he has the ability to not have to take a guy and hope to wedge him in, and that he takes the culture. It's pretty much you're here and you like the way that we do things from the jump. And that's what you're able to do for being in a place for 19, 20 years and winning a title. Some places have to take chances on guys and hope they can fit the culture.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be a player who comes in and changes the culture towards you at Baylor. Yeah. You're going to either fit in or you're going to be out. I mean, that's pretty simple. That's the way that program operates now. So that's the way they all should be the coach's way and not about the star player. But, yeah, the transfer portal is going to be really fun to watch. And, apparently there's already some women who have already entered the transfer portal as well. That's ongoing. And so we'll, just be keeping track of that, just like with football, every day, I guess, for the time being, because it's, news constantly as far as this thing goes.
I got a text on Friday when I was taking the afternoon off to play a round of golf from somebody that covers Louisiana Tech and was asking me about Alvin Brooks III, who's part of Scott Drew's staff. I sent him a text. He said, I'm very thrilled and happy to be a part of the winning culture at Baylor. So that was out. That was something that was kind of out there. New Mexico State, La Tech, according to Austin Massey, covers Texas Tech. We've had him on a couple of times. Talvin Hester, assistant coach at Tech, expected to be named the new head coach at Louisiana Tech. And Mark Adams, of course, now will fill that spot and have many options to do it. And then this story that was on Saturday, Memphis men's basketball facing multiple NCAA violations, and a lot of them surrounding the head coach in Penny Hardaway. And, of course, they made a pretty good run this year. He was the only person named in the notice of allegations, according to the report, involved in at least one Level 1 violation, 2 Level 2 violations, and also failed, according to the NCAA, to demonstrate that he promoted an atmosphere of compliance within the men's basketball program. Now, here's the catch. It was about James Wiseman, who's now in the NBA. He was the number 1 recruit who committed to play for Hardaway in Memphis during the 2019-2020 season, suspended 12 games in November 2019 for 2 violations. His mother accepted $11,500 from Hardaway in the summer of 2017. Wiseman played in 3 games while ineligible as well. Memphis appealed the ruling, but this is Penny Hardaway, who gave a young man money in 17 gave his mother money, and then became the coach in 8-19.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of scuttlebutt around Memphis hiring Penny Hardaway for a long time.
Yep.
So, I mean, they can accuse him of playing the long game, but I don't think the NCAA has the investigative chops to be able to prove that Penny Hardaway gave James Wiseman's mother knowing he was going to be the head coach at Memphis 2 years later. Now, maybe it could have been implied.
But here's the deal. Penny Hardaway, Team Penny, a grassroots program, donated $1 million to Memphis in 2008 to build a sports hall of fame, which then makes him a booster of Memphis.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a catch there. Now, I don't know how this works out. So we've seen some schools around a lot of the, we saw what happened to Will Wade at LSU. We saw what happened to Miller at Arizona. He's already been hired. And there's still a couple of schools that have been in Louisville's had some of there's still some schools. And right now are on their beautiful run that Kansas is on. But they have been. Auburn, Kansas has been linked to the Adidas situation. And you wonder, while the tournament is going on, if that will wait, and even if anything comes out of it at all. But that's something to watch as well.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know with these NCAA cases, and I saw a Memphis story, a reporter was talking about there's a lot more to this, just in terms of even the investigation itself was a little wonky, like some of the investigators and kind of how they operated apparently wasn't status quo, and it was a little strange. So you can read more about that just in terms of like one of the main investigators. But I mean, they combed through thousands and thousands of pages of stuff, and I'm sure phone records and all that jazz. I just don't understand, why did James Wiseman play for those 3 games when he was ineligible? Like, because that's apparently what helped kickstart this whole thing. So I just don't understand the decision behind that.
I don't
Maybe
know.
that's just something that I missed on at the time. But yeah, I mean, this is nothing new, really. Like, this is basketball, and stories like this are nothing new. It's a tough deal for Penny and Memphis hoops. Become a Memphis fan through this show, just in terms of the listeners that we have from there, and a lot of their desires to be a part of the party in the Big 12 here in the future. So hopefully it gets worked out. Penny's definitely not been just that star name that you hire and everything goes well like you dreamed of. It's been rather rocky, probably more rocky than anything so far in his tenure. But I'm sure we'll love to hear the results of this in about 5 years when the NCAA finally gets around to.
And Penny will be coaching in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my main thoughts on it. Is he won't be there by the time this punishment comes down, and who knows where Memphis is at that point in time.
And you have a lot now, the NCAA, when they have this oversight committee, Dr. Livingstone, Baylor, and others are on it, about what do you do now about previous issues when none of those people are around. In some cases, Baylor was able to wipe their slate clean in a lot of different ways. Oklahoma State was not, with Mike Boynton having to take the hit for what happened under Brad Underwood.
Okay. I got an answer on that. That was a restraining order. I forgot about that. His lawyer's temporary restraining order that allowed him to be able to play.
Yeah,
that's
right.
What that was. So I'm sorry. I want to clear that up.
And one note here, Phil Venzer, who lives in Vegas, I believe, Phil, you actually believe it, he sent me a box. We have the most amazing viewers and listeners about things you've sent us, some things candy or some things gifts or whatever. We have some in the studio. Phil Venzer's the one that sent me a box, brought this up. The Spy in the Sky. Remember that? And he just 21 more days of work left in the year, then a long vacation. Phil, that drives me nuts that you get a kind of a break. I got your books. We got them in. I got them over the weekend. I sent a picture to Craig and Paul. I was supposed to bring them to the studio. I don't know why I didn't, but let them read it. Phil Venzer, thanks for the books you sent to us.
Thank you.
Spy in the Sky. It's about that thick. Looks like it'll be very, very interesting to read as well. It's 4:50. We'll come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, get back to some of those comments that we have in the chat room on many things. Not just the college basketball and Final Four, but also about culture and transfer portal and so much more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Coming up May the 7th, mother and daughter brunch at Woodway. DiscoverWoodway.com is the website. Mother and daughter brunch will be at the Pavilion. It's the Carling Bright Arboretum. The Pavilion as well, same facility. It's a gorgeous place to host various events, including this one, Sweet as Can Be, BEE, Mother and Daughter Brunch, May 7th, again at the Pavilion at the Arboretum in Woodway. Mother-daughter brunch will be May the 7th, 11 o'clock until 1:30. Get online, discoverwoodway.com for you to order the tickets. The father-daughter dance was an incredible success, sold out, and they even had a waiting list for others who wanted to get in. Also, the city of Woodway, with what they have, 7 hotels if you visit Waco and you need one. I saw a thread on Sikkim365.com in the premium section about football games. Those who are Baylor fans coming in to watch Baylor play at home this fall. Well, you could also be fans of those teams coming in, and maybe the hotels at times gets a little crowded because of what's happening as well with Magnolia in various events, with Waco constantly hosting something left and right. So don't forget they have 7 hotels. The city of Woodway, trails, hikes, parks, all of that. They have a lot right there. It's a beautiful place, including the hotels and the Carling Bright Arboretum for special events. Go to discoverwoodway.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the Wedding Ring Store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
254-339-1122. The text line, the chat room's rolling along. Also, still some chatter on the Will Smith, Chris Rock scene last night.
I could have talked about that for 3 hours.
And I think we ought to go back to doing that again.
No, it was just so strange. It was so strange to see that. I mean, we've just never seen anything quite like that. And you know, especially from, you know, if Kanye had gone up there and done that, I don't think anybody would have been surprised.
Well, yeah, well, that's the one thing he hasn't done yet.
Right.
So, yeah, and Kanye's been made fun of, I mean, way more mercilessly and for good reason than Will Smith. I mean, you know, Kanye brings it on. He brings it on himself. himself.
He does.
I mean, and look, and lately he has no excuse for what he's doing, but he's just being a jerk ex. But but again, Will Smith. I mean, he should know this, which makes you worried about Will Smith, who used to seem like one of the most relaxed dudes in the world because his life was super dope, and now it's really strange to see that. Not only that, to see a guy walk up on stage, slap a presenter, and then 20 minutes later win Best Actor, and then kind of have to be like, and have to somehow address it. And I mean, that's why I kept watching afterwards.
Never
like, he's
once
going to
did he
win.
apologize to Chris Rock.
Not publicly, but
no. My sister was texting because I alerted her to it because I figured she was probably watching. She wasn't, but she definitely was watching, like probably everybody else after that. Because I guarantee, I don't know how they track it these days, but I guarantee there was at least 1 million new viewers in like that 5-minute period because of that simply alone. But yeah, just very, very strange situation. And she said, yeah, but listen to his speech because I didn't keep watching it. Like I saw that, and then I just saw it on Twitter, and then I went about my business. But I went and checked out his speech after she said, and it was interesting. Part of it felt like an apology, and he obviously was working through a lot of things in his head and trying to navigate the situation, which couldn't have been easy for anybody, even if it was his own doing. Just really weird to suddenly have that spotlight on you after the moment. But yeah, I mean, like, it kind of made me understand sort of kind of a little bit better that he's going through, but it didn't make me go, oh, well, I totally get why he went up and slapped Chris Rock. Like, no, it didn't make me think that at all. Sorry.
No, the thing is, Will Smith is his third time being nominated for Best Actor, and he probably should have won for Ali, in my opinion. He was so good in that movie. And Pursuit of Happiness, he was nominated for that, but I'm kind of on the fence about that whole thing. But
I'm not a big fan of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of sappy. But this one, he was really good in the movie. I mean, however historically bent they made the Williams story to make it work as a film, but he was good in the movie, but so it was his time to finally win it, and then your moment as an actor. I mean, this is the one thing that most of them wait for is that, like, hey, you're the best of all the crap that's been thrown out this year. You're the best of all that. You've done it. You're the best. You beat Benedict Cumberbatch and Andrew Garfield and these guys who did, well, depending on your opinion, great work. You're the best one. And then right before that, you take the focus off that completely.
You know why? I don't think it was fake. No, I don't think it was for publicity.
Chris Rock would have never done that.
Well, let me finish. Will Smith is sitting right at the front. Mm-hmm. He's about to accept everyone probably thought he was going to win right there at the front. So you saw there was a little bit of that way. This is way too convenient. This was crazy. In fact, here's a chat from JPS. That's his wife, Jada. Has drug him into an abyss he will not return from. And you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
He looks sad. His face looks different.
He looks sad to me. I mean, and again, I don't want to do this whole Hollywood, psychologist thing, but I mean, that does not look like the Will Smith that I feel like I know, from just like everybody else feels like they know Will Smith from watching him on Fresh Prince and Independence Day and I Am Legend and every other thing, iRobot, every other thing that he's been in, Ali. That seemed like a really sad, I don't know if confused is the right word, but just a guy dealing with a lot. That's what it looked like to me, especially during that acceptance speech. And he was trying to work his way through that. But yeah, like, I mean, dude, if your wife's up hosting her talk show talking about the other dudes she's sleeping with and y'all's open marriage and all this other, dirty laundry, like, that's going to have an effect on somebody. I don't care how accepting of it you are. And I can't help but think that, yeah, that's added up and caused a lot of stress on his shoulders, and he just snapped. He snapped and did something uncharacteristic that I don't think anybody would ever expect Will Smith to do. And he's got to be the one to now navigate the aftermath of that, and I'm sure he'll end up just fine for it. But yeah, I think that definitely added up on him. It had to have.
From Chris, his marriage to Jada is toxic. His kids are different. Rumors of course, the open marriage. He's been getting roasted for that. To me, Chris Rock was the tipping point. Will Smith is a good guy, but he couldn't hide his frustration anymore. From Lee.
If y'all saw that Red Table Talk, because I saw the excerpt of it, of when Will was on there, that's Jada's show, and they were talking about marriage and things. Like, it is the most uncomfortable you've ever seen a person in your entire life is Will Smith having to sit there and listen to her. And, not a relationship doctor by any means. I'm definitely not going to, try and give advice to anybody in a relationship because I'm no expert, but that just did not seem very healthy to me at all, and that was not healthy last night. So whatever's going on, like I said at the beginning of the show, I love Will Smith. I mean, he's as much a part of like stars over my lifetime as anybody. I mean, that dude's been there since day one of my life, basically, and I just saw a dude hurting, and I feel bad for him, and I hope he gets it figured out. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of toxicity and just bad going on that led to that last night.
Yeah, it's everybody has his breaking point, whatever it might be. That not giving him an excuse, but how many of us, like publicly, not just on this show in the chat room or whatever, could have the entire country and world watching, and then all of a sudden you just have that point where you just can't do this anymore.
Well, and we're in a society now where you see I'm
not excusing him, by the way.
We're in a society now where a lot of famous people are fighting back over, criticism and things like that, and want to be far more insulated. And you know what? There's just going to be a big gap that normal people are never going to be able to jump over. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry that you get made fun of, and I'm sorry that, maybe this wife thing's bothering you a lot, but you're also worth like $200 million, and you live in a gated community. That's the thing that separates normal folks from Hollywood folks. And even if Will Smith acted like a normal person would, if you were fed up with somebody talking about your wife or cracking jokes or whatever, like he's still in a different position in life and has to be mindful of that. But yeah, we're all human at the end of the day. But for Will Smith, that was so uncharacteristic, and it was just, I keep going back to the word bizarre because that's what I kept feeling after watching that last night.
Yeah, it was without question very, very strange. And I just looked. I like this. I'm not somebody who can read. I can sometimes read body language. I think I'm pretty good at that also. But his face just looks like almost not. It's not disheveled, but almost.
He's tired.
Yeah,
worn out.
He's tired.
He's emotionally spent.
Yeah, and then the money thing. The point that I was trying to get to there is, you can't have everything your way. Like, if you're going to be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and make millions and millions of dollars, I'm sorry, Dak, but there's going to be criticisms. Yeah. Nobody is so insulated that you get to be a Hollywood actor and nobody gets to say anything bad about you, and you get to make billions of dollars and you get to do everything that you want to do, but nobody can say it. That's just part of the deal. That's criticism. If Will Smith was a Philly cheesesteak business operator and somebody had a problem with his food, they, complain about it. People are going to have their thoughts. You can't have it all your way. And I don't think that's what Will Smith expects either. But yeah, definitely a dude that looked a bit frazzled.
How much does what you just said carry over? And we're going right over the top of the 5 o'clock hour. We will have the David Hellman NFL owners meetings going on in Florida at 5:30. How much of what you just said about if Dak or whoever gets money or whoever owns us, you get criticism, how much is that going to change now college football with the NIL money, with players who are the ones publicly we know are making tons of money?
Well, I have an NIL story on Baylor, actually, and there was a little bit of a little social media back and forth over the softball team, a little back and forth between, so basically Baylor softball got swept by Oklahoma over the weekend, and T-Rex, who's a listener to this show, I saw a tweet of his, and he was asking about, we got these elite basketball teams, this elite football teams, why can't we have that in softball was the basic, and baseball was the basic gist of it. And there's a lot of people that took offense to that, or I don't know about a lot, but I saw a couple people, including a player or two, that, popped off towards him over that. And I don't really think what he said was really harmful or all that negative. It was just a general question as a sports fan of hey, why can't baseball and softball be at the level of basketball and football? But, some people got to take that like it's a personal shot, and they got into a little bit of argument over that. So I don't know if that's part of it, of what you were just referring to or not, but...
No, I'm glad you brought that up.
You can't criticize me. I'm a college athlete. It's well, wait a second, and I do feel, to your point, I do feel like there is this growing sort of movement with college athletes in particular, where there is a feeling, at least I get from some of them, of... I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do, and I can't be criticized for anything. Because immediately, I'm just a college athlete. You can't. That's not like we're pro athlete, but all of a sudden you are getting paid, and you are getting paid to play sports, and you are more just as you're moving closer towards being a pro athlete. So, I mean, I think there's got to be a level of criticism that you don't apply to college athletes that you would apply to pros. But I do think it's becoming more where college athletes are starting to become almost pros in a way if you look at some of these money figures. So I think with that comes justified criticism if you're on, at a point like that.
There was always a point to me, and I don't know if it's completely changed, but there was a point about crossing the line with criticizing a collegiate athlete publicly. There's one thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Like when we saw the play offensively of Baylor in 2020, the type of heat that was put on Charlie Brewer. Some people just felt like they didn't like him. Some people just got tired of the offense. Some of it was on Larry Fedora, the coach, but Charlie took most of the brunt, even if the offensive line was bad, or he was bad at times. But there is a change, starting to change a little bit. It used to be kind of, you don't do that with college athletes.
Don't do that with high school kids.
Yeah. And then Lee Buttercup saw that T-Rex is about as pure a BU fan as there is. He's now in grad school at Baylor. He's caught flack before for not having attended Baylor, and that's another dumb thing. Because you haven't attended Baylor and you're a Baylor fan doesn't mean you can't be a fan or can't be critical. I mean, most of the bigger schools have thousands and thousands of alums or people who attended school, but a lot of them have massive amounts of T-shirt fans. But in this case, I guess it's to each his own.
Yeah, I mean, to each his own. I don't think, there should be overwhelming, venomous criticism towards, particularly high school players and college players. You kind of avoid that as well. And in the pros, it's just a free game. But yeah, Charlie Brewer got treated as badly as any bad quarterback's been treated in the NFL over the last 10 years, the way some fans went after him. So yeah, that's just part of the deal. It's part of the trade-off. And, I guess to each their own on how they handle all of that. I did want to mention the NIL thing. Baylor did announce that they've established a group licensing agreement for student athletes with the Brando Group, creating a pathway for student athletes to profit off name, image, likeness, co-branding with the school's official trademarks and logos. So Baylor joining up with the Brando Group, who's already got a bunch of clients, but that was official just a little while ago.
Well, Mac Rhodes will join us tomorrow. Maybe we'll get more information from him on that. That'll be good.
And you know what?
He kind of mentioned there was something else coming.
And you know what? To T-Rex's point, like, I don't know how people feel about leveling criticism at sports who aren't completely funded and do have partial scholarships and things like that. I think it is different if you're criticizing a softball or a baseball versus a football who's got everything at their disposal, or even a basketball. But I mean, it was a valid question. Like, if you look at the way the seasons have started, Baylor baseball's a shade above 500, but quite frankly, they should have won their TCU series. They should have won their Oklahoma series. They just completely melted down on Saturday. Baseball did, with a grand slam in the 8th inning to tie the game, and then a grand slam in the 9th inning to lose the game. Then they come and they win, like 16-8 yesterday, so they should have won that series. Baylor softball got swept by Oklahoma, and it was, they had a close, I guess, game 3, and Glenn Moore came out on Twitter and was talking about how proud he was of the team, and that's the number 1 team in the country they played, and nobody's, Oklahoma's an absolute juggernaut.
Everyone gets swept by Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's an absolute juggernaut. So I don't think you could take too much away from that, but I don't think they should also be immune to people wondering, like, hey, why does Baylor baseball have an 0-2 series, 0-2 series and conference play right now when they should be 2-0? They I guess you point to relief pitching or whatever, but I mean, they should be 2-0. They should have won 2 games against TCU and 2 games against Oklahoma. So that criticism is valid, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird time, but that Will Smith story, that's going to be with us for a while, no doubt.
5:11. When we come back, we got to make up a break, but we will. 254-339-1122 in the text line as well. I also am going to send Armstrong, and I know we have David Hellman at 5:30. Texas Tech beat Texas 2 out of 3 over the weekend in Lubbock. The second game was a walk-off grand slam. The third game, Texas smoked Texas Tech and run-ruled them 12-1. But the first game ended in what might have been the single most unbelievable steal of home to walk off the game ever, and we're going to have that for you in the next segment. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. March means 23 years in the automotive business for Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. In those 23 years, Richard Carr sold the best trucks and cars on the road, and like Richard Carr, They have offered first-class vehicles you can trust. Richard Carr wants to thank Waco and Central Texas for the support over the years and look forward to many more years to come. Right now, they've got new GMC trucks and also GMC Buick and Cadillac SUVs are on the way. Richard Carr is seeing new vehicle arrivals each week. It's time to get on their inbound vehicle list so you can get your new car or truck as they arrive. For qualified buyers, you can buy a truck now, get 0% financing for 72 months on most GMC vehicles and Buick SUVs. And with summer vacation season approaching, remember that Richard Carr has 11 SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options. They're a one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs as you and the fam or the girlfriend or the boyfriend, husband, wife, take that trip to the beach or to the mountains or wherever you're going. You want to be in a safe and reliable vehicle. So head on over to Richard Carr and check out all of their options and their one-stop shop. You can call now, come by now, or go online to find that perfect ride or SUV for your family this summer. They're also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. They've all undergone a 172-point inspection. They have over 10 lenders who will do what it takes to get you in a car today. It's anniversary month at Richard Carr. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
You know, we have a lot of different analysts to cover a lot of different schools. Big 12 around the country. Mike Scarborough, Tiger Bait, covers LSU very, very well. He sent us a text. This was a tweet from an LSU football player, Josh White. And I wouldn't have known much of this. But after heavy prayer, I've decided to step away from LSU, enter my name in the transfer portal. It happens every day. It's almost like breathing. With 4 years of eligibility, the text we got from Mike was, watch this one. This was an Aranda guy.
Huh. Yeah. So, yeah, he said he loved him, and that was in the class of 2020 that Josh White signed. So he's had some injuries. I looked up and read about him. He hasn't, he hasn't gotten as much playing time, and now Brian Kelly's there, and they've got transfers coming in and linebacker. So the room's a little loaded. So he's entered his name in the transfer portal, and 2020 would have been, when Dave Aranda was recruiting him for LSU. So, yeah, I mean, and if you're going to come play linebacker somewhere, playing for Dave Aranda, you can do a way, way worse. So,
well, 2020 was Aranda's first year, so that overlapped a little bit. When Aranda was first at Baylor, Josh White played in 10 games, but did not play last year. So he's got, I believe, 4 years of eligibility left. And he wouldn't have played when Aranda was there. Obviously, he would have recruited him.
But he would recruit him in his junior and senior years in high school. So
there's a connection, and I would imagine too, it wouldn't be surprising or shocking at all if some others on staff also had those connections. Whether it be a Dennis Johnson or a Juice Johnson or somebody else from LSU that's come over as well. So yeah, it did not cross my mind when I saw that. I remember him as a recruit. He was definitely a highly rated guy that a lot of people wanted, and obviously LSU wanting linebackers. If Dave Aranda wanted him to begin with, that's good enough for me. And that's definitely an interesting note. And they at linebacker, they've got some guys, but they could certainly use somebody else in that room as well. If they can bring in a player like Josh White, if he's what they thought he could be as a recruit, then that would be a great pickup.
Well, and let me tell you what, he's the Touchdown Club of Houston 2019 Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. Do you realize how damn good you have to be to even be thought of by the Touchdown Club of Houston? He went to Cypress Creek High School, by the way.
Well, the other thing, they've got guys who are seniors in that room and will be moving on. Dylan Doyle will be gone after this year, so there's room for him to play and then play more later on. And what what Matt Rule did with the defense with Phil Snow and what Dave Aranda did as far as depth goes, where they're running guys in and out. I mean, so there's not there's a true top 11, I guess, but really you're looking at Baylor on defense is the top 15, 16 guys because they rotate in a lot of guys.
I mean, I think they're of the mind the best are going to play. And if Josh White were to come in, again, he just entered the transfer portal, but I'm sure they would find room for him, and he would help elevate that room a bit as well. I think they've got guys who you can go ahead and just sort of peg as starters, but the right guy comes along the transfer portal. We saw what they did last year with Apuika and with Drew Estrada and with Grant Miller and Jacob Gall, all of those guys coming in. There was other starters in place or guys in place before them that came in, and so maybe Josh White could do the same. But either way, they're linebackers after this year losing Doyle after having lost Bernard and all of that. They'll need some reinforcements here pretty soon, and there's not a lot of sure things in that linebacker room as far as the young guys go right now.
No question. It's funny to me to watch the transfer portal. Somebody makes the announcement. I'm going to tell you the teams and fan bases that react. Baylor, Arkansas, Missouri, Wake Forest, Tennessee.
I feel like I see Arkansas on every transfer tweet at this point. It seems like they're locked in with every transfer that's announced.
I mean, but now also over the weekend, Austin Novacek.
Sad,
excuse me. The young man, the quarterback at Dripping Springs High School, Baylor commit, was invited to be a part of the Elite 11, the quarterback competition. He is everywhere you look, these camps he's going to, blowing up, having himself a really, really great early spring and even over the winter as well.
Yeah, Elite 11's cool. I mean, it's good to have a guy rather than not have a guy, and Baylor's had a pretty good run of it. They've had several players over the last handful of recruiting classes that have been Elite 11-ish type of guys. So that's not anything really new, so to speak, but they've been doing it now with regularity, which is great to see. And yeah, he's moving up the charts and was a 3-star, I think, when he committed. And I think that maybe he's been bumped up to a 4 by some services. I don't keep track that closely on the various changes that happen. But yeah, he's definitely turned some heads, and camp season's just kind of getting underway, so he'll have a lot more opportunities. But certainly being on that stage, the Elite 11, he'll have a tremendous opportunity to bump his stock. And I don't know how much that matters, just so long as he stays committed to Baylor. That's really what you care about, whether he's a 2, 3, or 4-star. But if he could get bumped up to a strong 4-star, and that could potentially appeal to some running back and wide receiver recruits, that would be great. So yeah, good to see him doing his thing.
All right, we just got a call from Jerome Tang, Kansas State men's basketball coach. David Hellman's expected next. Paul, do you want to check to see if he's available?
Coach Tang?
Yeah.
Let's take a break here.
Let's take a break. We'll do that. Also, here's the ending of game 1 of the best of 3 between Texas Tech and UT. UT, again, 12-1 winners yesterday. Grand Slam walk-off Saturday night for Tech. But I've never seen a base stolen at home like this with just no. I mean, here it is.
Left to right. He steals the bag. Wow. He steals home.
Kurt Wilson, while Nixon was on the mound looking down, has stolen home to win the ball game. Nixon never looked up and never even delivered the ball to Ardwan at home.
The part to me that's impressive was, one, that's as much of a stealing of home you could ever possible. The right-handed pitcher, that's almost impossible to do. But the announcers did a great job. Now, one of them was one of the guys that got hammered, during football season for Brian Jensen and John, I think it is. I thought their reaction was great. We see a lot of now almost overzealous yelling and screaming. That was an incredible by Wilson. It was incredible.
Yeah, and then he's the one that hit the grand slam the next day.
Yeah. So what a weekend. And again, the Big 12 loaded up in baseball, as you could imagine.
Pitcher will never do that again.
When we come back, we're going to see what we can do on trying to see with Jerome Tang, either available now or David Hellman. One of the two. We'll have them. Maybe both. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. And yet, drove by there. A lot of construction right now. Of course, there's a lot of construction everywhere in Waco. But the dealership, the lot, very full. And, of course, that's one of the problems with some of the dealerships around the country. Right now, the championship drive, as you get to the Final Four weekend, continues. Right now as well. Performance, power, reliability, the 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab. Total values up to $8,500 or get $3,000 in bonus cash, and along with that, 2.9% financing for 72 months. First responders on a lot of the vehicles are getting $500 in additional bonus cash. The 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 and 2.9% financing on them for 72 months plus $1,500 in bonus cash. And again, first responders, an extra $500 in savings. They have the Jeep Cherokee L, the Wagoneer, some of the newest styles, and some of the best in delivering dependability, and a whole lot more for your family and the safety as well. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Tell Ted Teague I sent you. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Ram Truck Month is here, and it's all about the championship drive as our hometown teams march towards another exciting championship drive. And so can you in your new vehicle from Alan Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. Shop for power, performance, and reliability with the brands that bring you what you want to drive. Come in today and see our selection of new 2022 trucks, SUVs, and cars. It's time to take home the trophy from Alan Samuels in Waco. Shop the huge inventory of new car and truck inventory in stock today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and 7. Blitz coming. Prescott in trouble. Lofting it to the corner. Gets there. Touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, the NFL owners' meetings in Florida. Of course, pro days are in full throttle as well. Baylor's is this week, in fact, coming up in a couple of different days. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com in Florida, with those NFL owners' meetings, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. So is today the first time that you've had a chance or others have had a chance to hear from Jerry in quite some time, and anything that he said that caught your attention?
Yeah, it was. It was the first time Jerry's spoken to the media since the Senior Bowl. So I feel like I've kind of been chasing him all over the country this year. I mean, nothing that's going to shatter the earth, but it was Jerry's first chance to talk about the departures of Amari Cooper and Randy Gregory. That was probably the biggest aspect of it. You could call it spin if you want to, but the Cowboys are selling the idea that they're better off using that cap money elsewhere. Jerry, not the first or the last person to point out that the Cowboys have used that money that they didn't spend on Amari Cooper and Randy Gregory to sign 5 or 6 other guys. I think it's fair to wonder if that's better. The classic quality versus quantity debate. But the Cowboys have kind of drawn a line in the sand, and for my part, I'm just interested to see who looks right at the end of this. And I guess, we'll obviously have to wait until the game starts to know the answer to that, but should be interesting to watch.
David, do you expect to see them make a minor move on the offensive line here anytime soon? That's one of the areas that, if you look at who are the starters going to be, there's probably more questions. If the game pre-draft, if the season started right now, offensive line's got a couple spots you were, questioning.
Yes, I do expect that. People keep asking me that, and I think you have to qualify it. I do expect them to make moves because that's what they do. I mean, you need to cover yourself for the draft so that you're not stuck forcing it at any spot. I'm not convinced they have a starting left guard. And if they want to try to sell you on Connor McGovern, all you have to do is point out the fact that they benched him last year. And then their primary candidate to play swing tackle right now has never played an NFL snap, Josh Ball, who was injured all last season. So, yeah, I think they need 2 starter caliber offensive linemen before they get into the draft. Like I said, is it going to be somebody that blows your socks off? Absolutely not. It's going to be a veteran minimum type of guy who can come in and kind of cover over the hole in the roster. But I do think they need to do that before the draft, and I expect that'll happen here sometime in the next couple weeks.
David, any new draft prospects really popped on your radar, guys? You're kind of eyeing now as we get about a month away.
That's a good question. I guess it depends on where you're looking. I mean, obviously, the further down the draft board you go, people are talking about a different guy every day. It seems like. I mean, especially with these pro days, obviously, Sam Williams is probably the name that's on everybody's radar right now. The Ole Miss defensive end. Seems like the entire Cowboys staff is really, really invested in him as a potential edge rusher. But that's the funny thing. I mean, as far as the first round goes, if you follow the draft, I think we've kind of picked over everybody that you could possibly think about with that 24th overall pick. So I just think it depends on how far down the draft board you go. But they'll be bringing their, they get 30 visitors that they're allowed to bring to the facility here in the next week or two, and hopefully we'll have as many of those names as possible here in the next week or so, and we'll start to get a better idea of the type of guys that they're talking to.
David, it's obviously an event that a lot of different owners are there. It's the owners' meetings, but also others a part of the NFL are there. What's Mike McCarthy? Where is he? I saw or heard that he was not there. Is that something that's unique or just kind of not there?
He's not here. The Cowboys, very graciously, they're going to set up a WebEx call for him to talk to us tomorrow, which I think is funny. It's like, well, if you got to take the time out of your day anyway, why not come hang out in Florida for a couple days? But yeah, Mike's doing the pro day circuit. I do think that's unique. I mean, I think of the 32 coaches in the NFL, I think 29 or 30 of them were here this morning, and Mike McCarthy wasn't one of them. The report that came out was he would prefer to focus on finding draft prospects, and maybe that's just how he would rather spend his time, but I definitely think it's interesting, and there are a lot of people trying to connect dots and say, oh, Mike McCarthy can tell that his seat is hot, so he'd rather focus on finding draftable players than talking to reporters. I don't know if that's why he's not here, but I don't blame him if it is. This team took a huge step forward with the draft last year. Finding Micah Parsons was a big part of the reason why they were as successful as they were. So, they might need every hand on deck if they're going to strike gold again this year. So, like I said, if that's why he's not here, I don't blame him, but I don't know for sure.
David, do you have a draft prospect that you're in love with yet, or do you try not to do that?
Oh, I don't think you can help but kind of develop draft crushes on guys as you watch them. I will say I haven't had as much time as I normally do to sit down and watch tape. So the further down the board you go, the less I know this year. But I mean, geez, I don't think enough people are paying attention to Chris Olave, the Ohio State wide receiver. Everybody kind of fixates on other receivers. Obviously, Traylon Burks out of Arkansas is a guy that gets talked about a lot, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a freak. He's basically a linebacker that plays receiver. But Chris Olave is just as well-rounded a prospect as he's he's ready to come in and do everything in the NFL right now, I think. And he doesn't seem like he grabs a ton of headlines. He's not like a very sexy name, but I won't be surprised if he's the best rookie receiver in the NFL next year. George Pickens out of Georgia is another guy I like a lot. A 6'3", 200 and something pound receiver who can run like him. George Karlaftis, the Purdue defensive end, again, I think he's just a ready-made player. He's not like the biggest athletic freak in this draft, but I think he could come in and contribute in a significant way right away as a rookie, which is a tough thing for a defensive end to do if he's not drafted in the top 5. I'm trying to think of some down the line guys. Like I said, my knowledge gets kind of spotty once you get outside the top 50 or 60 picks. But I mean, the fun thing for the Cowboys is this is not a very top heavy class. Outside of the first 2 or 3 prospects, this isn't some crazy year where the talent at the top is so much better than the bottom. So I really think when you pick where the Cowboys pick, I think people start to get stressed out that all the good players are going to be gone. I think the Cowboys are going to have a choice between 3 to 5 guys that could be day one starters, depending on what they want to do. So it's exciting to think that maybe you won't get a superstar, but even picking at 24, I think there will be quite a few really useful players sitting there.
I just wanted to add on, Dave, this is not even so much of a question, I guess, but you mentioned Olave there, and then to think that they've also got Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba. That is the sickest wide receiver core, and I just hate that we didn't get to see even more of those 3. That's a ridiculously talented wide receiver group.
Well, fortunately, we'll get to see Smith and Jigba. He's not even draft eligible. That's the funny thing. I mean, he might be it reminds me of Bama. For so many years it was like, yeah, Mark Ingram's great, but the guy behind him, Derrick Henry's even better. Derrick Henry's great, but the guy behind him, and Bama's done it with receivers as well, obviously going from Amari Cooper to Calvin Ridley to Jerry Jeudy to Devontae Smith, and I kind of feel like Ohio State's on a similar run right now. I think the guy that's not draft eligible might be the best of the 3.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your time. Enjoy gorgeous Florida.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. David Hellman in Florida, owners' meetings. With us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Kansas State head coach Jerome Tang is about to join us on the show.
Yeah, Smith and Jigba from Rockwall, and then Garrett Wilson, roundabout from Austin, although I think he was born out of state, but played his high school ball in Austin. But yeah, there's others. He just listed off all those Bama receivers that just replace each other and become better and better. But Olave, Wilson, and Smith and Jigba is just whew. Woo! That's a fantastic wide receiver core.
Yeah,
wow.
It's insane, and they're all explosive, dynamic, and what Smith and Jigba did in the bowl game. We were there. We were covering the Sugar Bowl that day, and when he went off in the Rose Bowl was nuts, considering that he was being relied on even more than ever before. And we are joined by a great friend of this show, Kansas State men's basketball coach Jerome Tang joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Have you slept in the last week?
A little bit, but I haven't needed it. It's like this adrenaline rush that, you've been waiting all your life for. And, I wake up without an alarm clock and just a million thoughts in my head and 1,000 things to do and just trying to figure out what's the most important thing to do next.
Well,
and so I'm on with you guys because this is the next most important thing.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Coach, the reception in Manhattan looks like it's been great. I mean, you've been up there a bunch of times as an opponent. What was it like to step into the new world as the head coach in a place you're a little bit familiar with?
That has been the thing that's taken me back. I knew they were passionate. I knew that they cared about basketball. I knew that, Wildcat Nation, they love their sports. But I did not realize just how attentive they were. I was telling someone, you go in a restaurant and the people see and they start clapping for you, where does that happen? It's that part has been overwhelming.
Coach, you've obviously been around Waco for a long time, and I think in particular the last couple years, people really started to talk about you and that next move to becoming a head coach of your own program. When did you feel the timing? When did you feel like you were ultimately ready for this step up? And, how did you kind of navigate that process depending on, the opportunities that were there or were not there?
Well, man, you know how we are. We always think that we're ready way before we ever are. So, 10 years ago, I thought I was ready, and if it was my decision, I would have, taken a job and to be a head coach. But, thank God that He had a better plan for my life, and He protected me from those things, allowed those people to tell me no and keep my ego in check. And because He allowed me to get the no's, I was able to get 2 Big 12 championships and a national championship. And, and now I've got a job that, people have to, they work through the ranks to get to, and I get to start here. So this is awesome.
How difficult or, in fact, grueling can it be when you're trying to maintain the roster you have of who you want back or vice versa and putting your staff together? I know you have some on staff that are working for you right now, but it seems like I don't know how many announcements have been made. What's the timeline? Is that a lot of having to go through paperwork as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of different paperwork and background checks and things like that have to be done before people can be officially announced. And so that part is, time consuming, and, you just got to let it run the course. But I've got a great staff, and they're working really hard, and just the right guys. I feel like I've been these are guys that I've known for a while, and they've really we've really looked forward to this to this opportunity, and together. It's not about me; it's about us being together, and the fact that we're together, the chemistry is even better, and we're going to accomplish a lot of really great things. As far as the roster goes, man, we're gonna go in the situation, and we're gonna evaluate everybody, and like I told the guys in the locker room, man, we're gonna be in the NCAA tournament next year, and I hope all of them are with me. But it's inevitable that some won't be there, and that's just the way life is.
Will you think recruit players that otherwise Kansas State was not recruiting recently?
Yeah. There's I believe wherever I'm at is the best place in the world, and if you don't, you shouldn't be there, and so there's a certain pride that the K-State family have in their program, in their university, in their athletic department, that they want their players to have, and they want the people who work in that program to have. And if I feel I'm at the best place, I got to go recruit the best players. And so we will definitely upgrade the talent.
Coach, you could have taken a job outside of this conference, which is a rolling ball of butcher knives, but you stayed in it. Was that one of the things that made Kansas State in particular attractive to you, is to stay in a conference that you've been in, that's super competitive and people really want to play in?
Well, I didn't set out to get a Big 12 job. I wanted to be a Power 5 job, because the fact that it is a Big 12 job, I mean, that makes it incredible. But, I wouldn't want to play one of my best friends, twice or 3 times a year. And, it'd be cool for us to be able to cheer for each other from a distance. But, I mean, this is, what the Lord blessed me with. And so I'm going to embrace it and run with it and have a great time.
What was it like to just sit in your head coach's office for the first time?
That was really cool. I had to pause. Like, for the most part, I felt like I was kind of like controlling myself and doing it, but like that one, I was a little speechless. And not just because it was my office. I also thought about that it was Bruce Weber's office. And I have a ton of respect and admiration for Coach Weber. And so sitting in the office, and knowing what a great coach he is and a great man, that paused me off.
Jerome, on your introductory speech, when you were introduced in front of the fans last Thursday, anyone who's given speeches, sometimes people can write it all down, and it's not. You seem to be able to pick and choose, and a lot of it right off the top of your head, what you feel and what you were feeling. How much of that was just you, just absolutely just winging it, and how much of that did you have to kind of look at a couple of things along the way?
I had names down that I wanted to thank so that I didn't forget people as I went down the timeline, and then everything else was just me winging it. So all the mess up was me winging it.
Well, first of all, it didn't seem like that.
Yeah. It was great.
You hear about someone wins a press conference, and a lot of K-State media who we've had on over the years, all of them were just blown away by it. So that's why I wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned.
No, I really wanted to speak from my heart, and the thank you. I really want our program to be about people who are very thankful for what they have, and there's no way if that's what I want the program to be about, that I couldn't get up there and not thank the people who had impacted my life, and and then guys on my staff told me there was two things that I could not say. I could not use the word culture, and I couldn't talk about taste. And they said, because every coach does that. So I stayed away from that, and I just really tried to honor the people who allowed me to be where I'm at right now.
What are those days where you have to play one of your best friends at least 2 times a year and maybe 3? What are those days going to be like for the two of you?
Oh, man. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's the first time, especially, I'm sure there's going to be some emotions. A lot of emotions. Me coming back to Waco, and our fans. And I talked to Miss Karen today about something, and as she started talking, we both started tearing up over the phone. And so, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be really emotional until tip, and then it'll be emotional after.
What does a 20-year-old bottle of wine taste like?
When you're drinking it with someone who's a brother to you and that you love with all your heart, it's like the nectar of the gods.
Mm-hmm. What are the unwritten rules when you take a job and you learned so much, and a lot of people learned a hell of a lot from you as well, of what you take with you when you are at another program and then you go to somebody who's a competitor? What are some things you can or cannot do?
Well, I don't think I can't be Scott Drew, so I have to be myself. But there's some core beliefs that I have to take with me, because they're what's in every company, every team, every franchise that wins championships.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are going to be the foundations that we build on, and we're going to do it, so it matches my personality and how I do things. But man, Scott's a winner. You say what you want to, but all kind of things about him. Make sure you include the word winner in there. And life, winner in coaching. Just name it. He wins, and I'm gonna do my very best to steal that, take that, and implement that.
Coach, I know you're off to conducting business in Manhattan, but looking back on your last year here in Waco, obviously injuries were unfortunately a major part of the storyline. But just your thoughts on the team, their perseverance, battling through, and ended up with a great season overall. Obviously not where you guys wanted to end up ultimately, but just your pride level with this last group that you worked with in Waco.
Well, I'm sitting in the airport in New York yesterday, watching North Carolina win by 20, and I text the staff, the guys, and I say, fellas, I'm watching the game, and knowing that we were one possession away from beating Carolina in spite of all of our injuries, like all the injuries that took place up until that point. And Matthew Meyer turned his ankle towards the end of the game when we were really rolling. You know, all of that, and two teams that have already made the Final Four, Villanova and Kansas, we beat.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it was an incredible year with everything that went on. And but for injuries, there was no team in America that was better than us. And what the injuries allowed us to see was the real character, toughness, grit, and heart of the guys on our team, and what they're real, you know, what they were all about. And so I'm just so proud of them. They're the Big 12 champions, and they overcame more adversity than any team in the country.
Coach, you know, a lot of times you watch a game in sports and you hear the coach and the players say, we left it all out there afterward, and that's the cliche. But I think if you look back at that game and you watch Adam Flagler and James Akinjo absolutely spend every ounce of energy they had in their body, never has that cliche been truer than it was in that North Carolina game.
I agree with you 100% on that. And like everyone, the guys on the bench cheering, everyone was just giving everything they had to each other, and it was beautiful to see. I've never watched the last game of a season that we didn't end with a win. So the only two last games I've ever watched were when we won the NIT championship, and then last year we won the national championship. But I am going to go back and watch the last 10 minutes of that game because I just think it's such a special thing that those guys do.
You mentioned your conversation with Karen Craig. You've been on the road. I mean, I wouldn't think you have been back to Waco. You might be on your way back to Waco. What's that going to be? You're talking about playing a game here later on this year, or maybe it's early next year. But, you know, you got to move. You got a lot of things to do. There's a lot of moving parts other than making sure you recruit your own roster and also new names.
Yeah, I'm actually driving back, so I'll get to see my wife and kids for a couple hours, and then I have an early flight out of Dallas in the morning, and Ray's doing all the packing up and figuring things out. Island has to finish her senior year, and so I'll be back a couple more times. Apparently there's some young man sent me a text last night asking me to give him a call because he wants to ask permission to take my daughter to prom, so I got to work through that one. Yeah, I know. And so there are a lot of moving parts right now.
Coach, when we see you and Scott Drew meet up for the first time, you know, with you as head coach of Kansas State, is it going to be reminiscent of the spring game and the two play callers? Is that going to be kind of how it goes?
Well, you know, he's going to, I think he will try to read my mind a little bit more this time. I knew exactly what he was going to do in that spring game. If he gets one play, he's going for a touchdown. So, but it'll be the course of a game. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth there, trying to figure out what each other's thinking.
Is there anything you've experienced this first week you weren't expecting?
I did not expect this overwhelming, how everyone is excited about this transition. You know, just I don't know that I've seen or heard, and I hadn't really paid a lot of attention, but everybody's sending me stuff, and it seems like everything has been just super positive. And usually, as I've watched other coaches get jobs, somebody is out there, you know, killing it, you know, saying it was a bad hire or whatever. And so I'm just really thankful for you guys and the other guys in the media that, you know, just respect what we've done at Baylor. And it's a culmination of, you know, just a lot of people that did a lot of great things that, you know, allowed me to be a part of.
One more thing on the coaching part of it. There's a story that is in one of the I guess it's on a Kansas State online somewhere, about back early on when you were bringing players in at Baylor and you were trying to find out maybe a walk-on or whatever, or trying to try their talent. Are you going to work out against any recruits as a guard and find out if they can beat you or not this time?
No. Not at all. Not at all. I'm way past that.
There's a story. You worked a guy out, and an hour or so later, Baylor coaches found Coach Tang crying in the locker room and wondered what was wrong. And you had beaten this guy. Is that right? You had beaten a prospect?
Yeah. No, it was a kid we signed.
Oh.
He was talking a lot of noise, and I just was like tired of hearing his mouth and checked it up. And I won the game of 1-on-1. I remember going in the locker room. The other coaches came in. I'm crying, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "We're gonna lose a lot of games."
Is there a difference in how you coach as a head coach compared to an assistant coach?
I don't know. I'm going to find out. I don't think so. I think the difference is that, like, Scott allowed me to be myself, and Coach, we really balance each other. And so I'm going to need my staff to balance me. That's what I'm going to need. So they're going to have to be more of the nice guy.
Last thing, what did Baylor University mean to Jerome Tang?
Oh, man, I don't know how you put that into words. I love Baylor. I do. I love everything about Baylor. I've been blessed to work with great presidents and athletic directors and, staff. And my children grew up here, and, the blessing of being able to stay in one spot and the kids go all the way through high school, and you never have to, uproot them and make new friends elsewhere. And it has a special place in my heart and always will.
And you've been special, by the way, and you've heard that for the last several days, but really you've known that for many, many years. It was always a pleasure to pick your brain on many things, whether it was an interview or just asking you about certain things going on with the team. Kansas State's lucky, and I know you feel the same way. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate y'all.
Jerome Tang, Kansas State men's basketball coach, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
I'm glad I remembered that spring game coaching between he and Scott Drew. I forgot about that, but it just popped into my head. I was glad it did because that was a fun moment.
That gives us a little bit late. Paul's Top 5 coming up next. Sikkim 365 Radio. By the way, thanks to Tom Gilbert at Kansas State for helping set that up. This is 365 Sports. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Oh, look, as you see, something's happening on the street outside. So,
wow.
Breaking news.
After a couple weeks break,
yeah,
good to see some people out there.
It's good. Look, people work hard. They need breaks.
Hey, they can't do that and also be over at Bagby and also be,
Yeah, bring them all in one spot, finish it, and move on.
Yeah.
That's.
I can't wait for them to stop tomorrow to go work on another project across town for 2 weeks, and then, but at least there's some activity.
Yeah. All right, top 5 questions for UNC here in the Final Four. We'll do UNC today, Duke tomorrow, Villanova on Wednesday, Kansas on Thursday, and then
Is that your picks 1 through 4?
No. I'm just Jack told me which ones we were going to do in which order. He's wow. I mean, that's Armstrong and Emerald are here. They saw it. They said, "This is what we're doing." Your order was, I sent him 5 this week, and he said this is the order. So, all right, number 5, how will the game be called? So everybody talks about how Duke gets all the calls. Well, we saw with Baylor how UNC came the closest to losing, blowing that game was the game got called really tight in the second half. Baylor got a ton of foul calls. I mean, they were calling fouls left and right on everybody, but if UNC gets into that bench, if the game is going to be called how most people think Duke games are called, it's going to be a problem for UNC. Because they only play those 5 guys, really.
No, you're right. And it's one of the things as we entered that game, you're talking about Baylor and their depth. Hell, UNC has 1 or 2 guys themselves. You're exactly right.
Yeah. And Craig, go ahead if you have anything on it.
I kind of had a thought. Now it's leaving me, but I mean, I definitely think people are going to be on the lookout for anything that goes Duke's way and be ready to cry foul as soon as it does. You know, I think there's a little conspiracy theory going on, like, oh, we just so happen to, and everybody's a conspiracy theorist nowadays. Like nothing's real and everything's this, grand plan or some weird whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of people that feel like Duke's the team of destiny, whether they really are or whether the officials will make that happen. So, yeah, I think there will be a lot of eyes on the refs. Yeah.
Number 4, can they continue this role without using the bench? I mean, will someone, if the game is called that way, can they, not use their bench and hope for what happened against Baylor was, I think if Armando Bacot had gotten his 5th foul called in regulation, Baylor wins in regulation, it doesn't go to overtime. But Armando Bacot was able to stay in the game and be effective, even though his missed free throws let Baylor get back in the game. Him being there in general was huge for North Carolina to be able to win that game, because if they don't have Manick and Bacot, Baylor can get back.
Well, I mean, Bacot yesterday against St. Peter's was, literally like watching men among boys, and against Baylor, he hit. He'd miss a free throw, make the second one on the 2. But if it was 1-on-1, he'd miss him, right? He's a really good player. I always thought he might be a little soft, but I don't think so. I think he's a pretty tough dude.
I think it was probably an early season unfair criticism of him. Number 3, can Brady Manick stay as hot as he's been? Because if you look around the tournament, I don't know if there's a player that you can defend when they are going like Brady Manick, because he's tall, he can hit threes like crazy, he can play in the low post, he can do pretty much everything. Nobody really has a defensive answer for him.
No.
You kind of have to hope that he's cold in the game, because he has been, especially since that Duke game, pretty red smoking hot.
Yeah, I hope he's cold or hope he gets ejected. That's basically the two options there, and probably a better chance that he's ejected than him cooling off. But no, he's been sensational, and definitely gave it to Baylor in a major way before that ejection. But what a pickup from Oklahoma. I bet they certainly wish they would have had him this year, but he's been great for the Heels.
Yeah. 2, who from the bench can step up if need be? So if Duke gets the game called the way that Duke probably wants it called, who is it going to be on the North Carolina bench that steps up? Armstrong can probably answer that question more than anyone, but again, that's a question that Hubert Davis doesn't really want to have to answer, is who's going to be the 6th or 7th guy if they get into that situation against Duke in the ultimate version of this rivalry game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they don't have depth, so the options are few and far between, and you just got to hope that you stay out of foul trouble and don't let it get to that point, because in a war of attrition, I'm taking Duke all day long. I mean, if they get into where they're battling benches, then that's going to be Blue Devils running away with it, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, you're just gonna have to hope you get the most from your starting lineup and what little depth that you do have. But just part of the deal, and even more credit to UNC for not having a large roster and being able to kind of navigate all of this and find their way here. That's why some teams can use it as excuses. Injuries when their season doesn't go the way that they want, and then there's those that just fight through it and fight through depth issues. And North Carolina's done a great job of that.
Yeah, and number 1. Will the rivalry cloud their emotions? Do you get so keyed up that it's Duke, that it's your number 1 rival, that you forget that maybe you need to take Duke off the chest and just focus on the Final Four?
Yeah. There's no way that when they pounded Duke at Cameron Indoor that they thought they'd see him again. Maybe in the ACC tournament. No, not in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, who could have imagined this situation coming up?
Yeah, I don't think I think there's definitely going to be some, heavy emotions involved. It's going to be impossible for there not to be, but I think these are two teams who are well-traveled and have been in a lot of games like this, whether this current incarnation of players have, played in games quite like this. I mean, they're both experienced. They both have pedigree, and they're both used to playing in games like this. So I anticipate maybe they kind of have to settle each other down a little bit, maybe early on, but I think it's just going to be Duke, North Carolina basketball at the end of the day. It's just there's a lot more riding on this one than there has been on some of the others.
I just saw this note. The NCAA has informed 11 different officials that they will be selected to work the 2022 Final Four in New Orleans. One of them is Keith Kimball. He's from Arlington, Texas, but he's actually a Waco resident, a Waco native. Roger Ayers, who's on a lot of them, Bo Borowski, among others, Tony Padilla, but that list is out for the Final Four. For Emory Winter, for Jack McKenzie, and also Armstrong Sims. Paul Catalina, great stuff. Craig Smoak, great stuff. I'm David Smoak. Thank all of you. Text line and chat room and our sponsors. Good night, Sick on 365 Radio.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.